Chapter 1339. However, these people's pupils shrank. Even the scholarly divine king found it difficult to maintain his composure. His heart was shaken. What did he see? Mother gold liquid? Something known as the mother gold liquid pool was generally formed before the creation of the world. Once the great heaven and earth, great world, and great universe were formed, this substance could not be reproduced because it had already solidified and shaped. It was too rare, and contained all kinds of patterns from before the creation of the world. It could only be encountered and not sought. Since ancient times, how many virtuous seniors and indescribable great cosmos-level evolvers had ventured into the primal chaos in search of it? This was because the current path, the current great path of evolution, had almost reached its end. People couldn't see a way out, so they would search for things from before the creation of the world, hoping to pry into some mysterious clues. As for the indescribable great cosmos-level powerhouses, they wanted to find a way out from such a special substance and find a way to survive to solve their own problems. Now, Chu Feng stared at the pool that was no more than 3 feet square. His eyes were sharp and he was extremely excited. Even though his soul and light had become one and the Tao fruit of the lesser Yin realm had returned, it was still difficult for him to calm down. His emotions were fluctuating violently. He didn't feel indescribable, and he didn't have the urgency of a great cosmos-level evolver to solve his own problems. However, he could use this to shape his own weapons. The weapons raised by this pool were destined to be heaven-defying. According to legend, this pool could cultivate supreme weapons because the patterns it contained were too special and incomprehensible. However, they were extremely powerful. Chu Feng smiled. It was a radiant smile. Apart from refining weapons and comprehending the way, this pool could also be used to practice the wonderful 7 treasures technique. This was because it was definitely a rare treasure of the world and represented the pinnacle of the metal attribute. The special multicolored light contained in this pool was very dense and constantly intertwined. It was no problem for him to absorb some of it. Although the wonderful 7 treasures technique was no match for the martial madman's time technique, it was still a terrifying trump card that the world feared. In fact, the last time Chu Feng used the wonderful 7 treasures technique, it was difficult to kill the successor of the martial madman, the young great saintly Chen Tian. The main reason wasn't because the technique was ranked lower, but because he hadn't found a suitable rare treasure of the world and couldn't completely practice this technique. Until now, Chu Feng had only found rare Yin and Earth attribute. He was still lacking a lot. Chu Feng immediately operated the wonderful 7 treasures technique to absorb the essence. For a moment, his entire body was dazzling. Metallic luster circulated and his soul light resonated and flourished. It was simple and direct. After seeing this pool and guessing what it was, Chu Feng began to refine it and cultivate the wonderful 7 treasures technique. Now, the divine King Tao fruit in his body had awakened. After 10 years of accumulation and comprehending in the divine King domain until now, he had long studied the 7 wonderful techniques thoroughly. Hence, his efficiency was as high and as fast. His entire body shone, vaguely releasing 7 colors. Divine light rushed into the heavens. In the distance, the expression of Ying Zhexian's flawless and absolutely beautiful face changed slightly. She thought of the past and recalled some of her vague experiences in the foreign realm. In he had and to Ying he Ying. To 7 he and he and a to. Back then, it was she who passed on the wonderful 7 treasures technique to Chu Feng, and they joined hands to face the enemy in the foreign realm. Now, he actually succeeded in cultivating this supreme technique? This was a secret. Even in the quasi-immortal race, only a few core people could get their hands on the mnemonic. Back then, the foreign realm could automatically erase people's memories. Hence, she wasn't worried about the scriptures being leaked when she imparted the technique. She didn't have any psychological burden. The divine monarch Tao fruit was in Chu Feng's body. He wasn't in a state of self-immersion and seclusion. Instead, he was completely awakened. His complete soul was participating, so his cultivation speed was too fast. After absorbing a portion of the multicolored light in the pool, he was about to succeed. The Divine Monarch domain's many years of accumulation and research weren't in vain. Chu Feng exhaled lightly. He felt very satisfied. He vaguely felt that everyone might have underestimated the wonderful 7 treasures technique. It wasn't necessarily only ranked 11th. That was because he felt that the power of this wonderful technique had increased by a large margin. In the past, its low ranking was very likely because it was too difficult to cultivate. It required 7 types of rare and precious materials. Normally, where could one find them? If ordinary materials were used instead, the effect would definitely be greatly reduced. Naturally, the power would also decrease sharply. Chu Feng suspected that if he could gather the 7 rarest types of rare and precious materials, would he be able to use the wonderful 7 treasures technique to rival the martial madman's time technique? Or even restrain it? You do have some methods. You got here first and absorbed a small portion of the essence in the mother gold liquid pool. Alright, let's stop here. Respectfully offer up the mother gold liquid pool. At this moment, the young emissary in front of Chi Feng spoke. He directly asked for the fortune of this place, and even asked Chu Feng to respectfully offer it up. He had a faint smile on his face. With his hands behind his back, mist surged around his body. He was a powerful divine monarch. Moreover, he was a top-notch divine monarch who could look down on numerous divine monarchs. Chu Feng shot a glance at him and didn't pay attention to him. That was because he was pondering a question. Could the diamond chakram on his body that was shattered during the reincarnation process be restored here? He was considering what his weapon should be forged into. Not far away, the emissary didn't get angry when he saw that Chu Feng didn't respond and was instead lost in thought. Instead, he still had a faint smile on his face as he quietly looked over here. However, Chi Feng's hair stood on end. Even though he didn't like Chowda verbally and wanted to kill him in his heart, he was still rather sensitive at this point in time. He simply felt a slight chill and fear toward Chowda. He had a kind of apprehensive feeling. One had to know that he was a dignified divine monarch. Now, he felt that something was wrong. This Chowda was too quiet and too calm. Was he pretending to be calm and deliberately mystifying things? In an instant, his heart trembled. This was a divine monarch-level secret realm. What gave Chowda the courage to enter? Was he relying on the prestige of the first mountain to suppress others? He couldn't sit still any longer. He excused himself to the emissary and said that he had to leave for a while urgently. Then, he flew away. Chi Feng actually ran away. He felt very ashamed. He was a divine monarch. How could he be afraid of a saint-level insect? However, he was restless and wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. At this moment, the scholarly divine monarch beside Yingzhixian couldn't keep his calm either. His eyes shone with a strange light as he opened his mouth. Chowda, seeing that you discovered this great fortune, I will bestow upon you generously and allow you to follow my clan. You have to know that chaotic times are coming. As the saying goes, the lives of the heavens are cheaper than grass. My clan won't accept ordinary geniuses. You can still be considered acceptable. Come over and offer up the mother gold elixir pool. Who are you? Where did you get this? Chu Feng finally opened his mouth and was no longer in a daze. He didn't expect that he would attract these 2 big fish when he wanted to eliminate Chi Feng and the others. He didn't know where the so-called emissary came from or what his identity was. Since he dared to choose a divine monarch-level secret realm, he naturally wasn't afraid. He originally wanted to trap and kill some opponent. Originally, he wanted to kill some divine monarchs with the little black wooden spear. Now, he didn't need to do that. If the divine monarch Dao Fruit in his little Een realm returned, who would he be afraid of? The expression of the young divine monarch who stood side by side with Ing Zhixian turned slightly cold. He was no longer scholarly and emitted a murderous aura as he stared at Chu Feng. This evolver who seemed to be merely at the Saint Realm dared to be so disrespectful and speak like this? He opened his mouth and instructed Ing Wudi, "Go slap him and leave behind the mother gold elixir pool. As for that Chowda, there's no need to leave him behind." He ordered the quasi-saint race to slap Chu Feng and kill him. Then, he glanced at Ing Zhixian and said, "What do you think?" Chu Feng's face darkened. From the beginning to the end, this so-called emissary didn't ask for his opinion and treated him as if he didn't exist? Boom. He didn't say much. The divine monarch Dao Fruit and the Yang Realm Great Sage Physique fused into one. In an instant, his aura skyrocketed and his divine monarch blood chi surged. It was earth-shattering and made the mountains and rivers tremble. Chu Feng slapped forward and covered that scholarly divine monarch. At this moment, densely packed blood-colored lightning appeared in the sky. The most powerful heavenly tribulation had come again. Chu Feng looked disdainfully at the heavenly tribulation with indifference and confidence. With a flip of his hand, that large hand that had been blasted out drew the heavenly tribulation for his own use. Then, it continued to slap forward. Of course, he was also enduring the heavenly tribulation and suffering an incomparably terrifying attack. "You dare to attack the divine race? You must be tired of living," that scholarly divine monarch shouted. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. After that scholarly divine monarch said these words, he himself realized that the great sage opposite him had become a divine monarch. It was because everything happened too quickly. Moreover, he had no way to evade and could only face it head-on. He soared into the sky. That was because that large thunderous hand of Chu Feng was too terrifying. It covered the sky and was accompanied by countless blood-colored lightning storms. The aura of destruction was vast and mighty. Bang! He couldn't evade it. In the sky, he was slapped by Chu Feng. His entire body flipped over and he was pressed into the collapsed mountains and rivers by a large thunderous hand. What's the divine race? Chu Feng seemed to be talking to himself, but also seemed to be asking a question. Not far away, Ing Xiaoxiao's mouth opened into an O shape. Just now, she was still worried. She was still nervous and afraid for Chu Feng. Ing Zhixian was also dumbfounded. "I wish everyone a happy new year, good health, and good luck for the next 19 years. Chapter 1340. The Ing sisters were stunned and completely petrified. Even Ing Wudi was dumbstruck. He was somewhat at a loss and puzzled as he felt extremely shocked. That was a divine king, yet he was sent flying by a slap from Chu Feng just like that? Ing Zhixian's white clothes fluttered and the mist on her face dispersed. Astonishment and shock were written all over her flawless face. It felt very unreal. She was inexplicably shocked. How many years had it been? Chu Feng had actually grown to such a level? He was now in the body of a youth, and from the looks of it, he had reincarnated. Even if he had the foundation of his past life, to become a divine king and suppress the divine king of the emissary was too difficult. However, he had succeeded. The path he had taken and the accomplishments he had achieved were simply unbelievable. In just a little over 10 years, he reincarnated into the Yang realm, yet he was already able to sweep through the divine kings that came from the heavens. Every single move he made was done in a casual manner. This kind of combat strength was too terrifying and too shocking. "Children, what's going on?" The Ing clan's legendary figure came. That old woman followed them into the secret realm. She was also a divine king, so she was worried about Ing Zhixian and the other two for fear of offending the emissary. The old woman had a head full of white hair and a smile on her face. However, when she arrived at this area, her expression completely stiffened. She couldn't help but exclaim, "Emissary?" In the distance, that young emissary was currently in an extremely sorry state. His entire body was covered in blood, his hair disheveled, no longer possessing his previous scholarly elegance, his clothes in tatters. At this moment, only Ying Xiao was able to smile. After her shock, she was very happy and didn't conceal it at all. If it wasn't for the fact that she had some misgivings, she might have already shouted out Chu Feng's name. "Who did it?" the legendary figure of the Ying clan asked. After that, he looked at another emissary not far away. That was the person who accompanied Qi Feng here. In her opinion, only competitors who came down from above but didn't belong to the same race would have this kind of ability. In fact, that emissary was now incomparably serious. His heart was trembling and his scalp was even more numb. Wasn't that Chao De a great sage? But now, it seemed like this wasn't the case. The situation was serious. This was a divine king, moreover an exceptional divine king. His hair stood on end as he felt a dangerous aura enveloping him. He immediately knew that Qi Feng had wronged him. But where was Qi Feng? This emissary searched for Qi Feng, but he discovered that Qi Feng had long since disappeared. He had already found an excuse to run away. Cough! A cough sounded. Within the shattered mountain peaks, the emissary stood up. His injuries weren't light, actually sent flying by a single slap, his face covered in blood. This was just too humiliating. His eyes were cold as he stared at Chu Feng. He actually dared to humiliate him like this. However, in an instant, his expression returned to normal. He knew very well that he couldn't do as he pleased in this world and order people around. Otherwise, he would suffer greatly. Brother Chao has truly shocked me, made me feel ashamed and made me admire you. You're not even 20 years old, yet you already have such accomplishments. It's too shocking. In this chaotic era, I believe that there are many great races that are yearning for a genius like you. This naturally includes my god race. He regained his composure and restrained himself. He did not lose his temper and instead revealed an expression of amazement. However, his heart was cold and gloomy. If he didn't kill Chowda, this lower realm great sage, it would be hard for him to vent his resentment. What happened just now was too humiliating. What great sage? He's actually a divine king? It seems like the information was ridiculously wrong. He was extremely dissatisfied. He developed a bad impression of the quasi-saint race's old woman because the information was too inaccurate. What nonsense are you spouting? Slap yourself. Chu Feng spoke. He cast a sidelong glance and threatened. Brother Chao, I admit that there were some misunderstandings before. I shouldn't have had misunderstandings about you. The young divine king sighed. Moreover, his eyes were burning with passion. He wanted to recruit Chu Feng, saying that the god race yearned for a genius like him. Once he joined the god race, he would be bestowed with a supreme heavenly art and a peerless breathing technique. It would allow his path of evolution to be smooth and even allow him to comprehend the supreme letters of the past most powerful experts. He was very courteous and appeared to be very sincere. However, with Chu Feng's fiery eyes, how could the gloomy glint that had previously flashed past the depths of the other party's eyes be hidden from him? In addition, the other party's attitude was so high and mighty at first. He wanted Ying Zhixian and the others to slap him in the face. It could be said that he was extremely arrogant. Now, he was suddenly modest. How could it be sincere? Do you want to slap yourself or not? Chu Feng directly interrupted him and asked coldly. He didn't want to say anything else. He was someone who was about to leave this battlefield, so why would he care about some bird emissary? How could he stop if he didn't squeeze out all the benefits from him? Brother Chao, I admit that not long ago, the young divine king was still speaking. His tone was calm and his attitude was sincere. However, what awaited him was a thunderous explosion. The blood-colored lightning interweaved in the sky as a terrifying large hand stretched out and slapped toward him. Chu Feng moved again. He couldn't be bothered to listen to the other party's nonsense. He attacked himself and slapped toward him. Naturally, it was accompanied by the most terrifying and powerful lightning tribulation. "You are going too far." The emissary's expression stiffened and all his smiles vanished. He was truly furious. He felt that he had already lowered his status by speaking in such a low voice. He even extended an olive branch to the god race, but in the end, the other party didn't give him any face and even humiliated him like this. "When I was weak, you looked down on me. When I was strong, you flattered and attached yourself to me. What god race? Die." Chu Feng's palm and fingers shone. Golden runes interweaved on his palm as his monarch's blood chi filled the air. It formed its own rules and developed a terrifying monarch domain. The emissary bellowed. Multicolored light burst forth from his body as he resisted with all his might. This time, he was prepared and used some kind of exceptional secret technique of the god race. For a moment, a huge divine master appeared behind him. That kind of form and dignity was like the supreme Buddha worshipped by the Buddhist race in the Yang realm. It was also like the legendary supreme devil ancestor of the origin demon race. As he resisted, the huge divine master behind him opened his eyes in the clouds. His gaze seemed to be able to cut through the eternity and tear apart the heavens. He suddenly slapped forward with his palm. This was their race's extremely terrifying, exceptional technique. The young god race emissary attacked with all his might. This was equivalent to summoning a portion of the ancestral power. Even though they were separated by a great world, this was still very terrifying. The Divine Master's silhouette and dignified face made people feel intimidated at first sight. Moreover, this divine statue was indeed terrifying and intimidating. Its power was boundless and it shook the entire secret realm. It was as if it wanted to blast through all enemies in the heavens. Unfortunately, he encountered Chu Feng. Even if this move could suppress many divine kings, it had no effect when facing Chu Feng. With a boom, Chu Feng's palm was accompanied by blood-colored lightning and the golden runes on his palm. It was unstoppable as it shattered the Divine Master's large hand that covered the sky. Moreover, Chu Feng's palm imprint followed and smashed in. Blood flowed from the 7 apertures of the god race's emissary as he tumbled backwards. After that, he felt intense pain on his face because Chu Feng had attacked consecutively in a split second. It almost made his face explode and all his teeth flew out. He was slapped 5 or 6 times in an instant. "How dare you humiliate my god race like this?" He gnashed his teeth and was seething with anger. Unfortunately, he didn't bite his teeth. There was only blood and flesh. He knew that the other party was doing this on purpose. He was slapping the god race in public and humiliating them. This could be considered giving them a taste of their own medicine. "It's not like I've eaten or sold the god race in the past. Who do you think you are?" Chu Feng spoke. He thought of the deity race in the lesser Yin realm. They were mortal enemies and the two sides had fought fiercely before. "Kill!" The young emissary's hair danced in the wind and his eyes were filled with resentment. His entire body erupted with a special brilliance that burned and distorted the void. He used all of his energy to kill his way out of this small world. He wanted to escape and find someone to skin Chu Feng alive in the future. But now, he couldn't delay any longer. He used the god race's forbidden secret technique. He didn't care about the price. The soul-burning light boiled the essence of his body and released all of his potential. He was going all out and was about to flee hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. A ball of flame appeared in his body and blossomed with dazzling light. It formed a divine ring outside his body and covered him. Moreover, it continuously expanded outwards to attack Chu Feng. Attack and defense in one. However, Chu Feng was very calm. He calmly faced the most powerful heavenly tribulation and used the wonderful 7 treasures technique to test how powerful the newly obtained metal attribute rare treasures were after they were fused. Once the metal light flew out, It was like an immortal sword or a flame that could transform the rotten into the miraculous. It glistened brilliantly and illuminated the world. With a ripping sound, the ball of light surged out by the god race emissary was cut apart. Then, he let out a muffled groan as his body was in incomparable pain. He was terrified and terrified. He clearly heard the sound of his body breaking apart. He was almost cut in half at the waist. After that metal light flew out, it was invincible. It broke his secret technique, and even split his body open. Ah! He screamed miserably and went mad at the same time. That was because he knew that everything pointed to disaster today, and he most likely couldn't escape. Rather than that, he might as well fight to the death and completely destroy indiscriminately. His body was cracking apart. His flesh and blood contained an energy sword core nurtured by the god race's special secret technique and essence blood. His entire body was like a scabbard, and the sword core was slowly being pulled out. But if he hacked out like this, he would exhaust his essence energy and blood essence. It was fine if it was used to suppress and kill a powerful enemy, but if it was broken by someone, he might also die. Chu Feng was astonished. This secret technique was indeed very powerful and made even him feel a wave of danger. The god race emissary's sword core appeared. It was scarlet like blood and carried the aura of flesh and blood as well as the fluctuations of soul light. It was extremely terrifying and incomparably sharp as it cut apart all the surrounding matter. For a moment, the other divine kings in the distance, such as the legendary old woman from the quasi-immortal race, as well as the other emissary, all felt their hair stand on end. This sword could definitely kill many divine kings easily. It was unstoppable. This was an unparalleled sword core nurtured by the god race's flesh and essence energy. As expected, even the divine king-level armor and items on this god race emissary's body were shattered under the sword light as the sword left his body and was pulled out of the scabbard. As for his divine king-level corporeal body, it was covered in cracks and was almost destroyed under the illumination of the sword light. This was a sword of slaughter. While killing the enemy, it was also killing and injuring oneself. However, how could Chu Feng be afraid and retreat? He still attacked. This time, the earth and Yin attribute energy also followed suit. The wonderful 7 treasures technique corresponded to 7 kinds of rare and precious substances. Now, he had already obtained 3 of them. Bang! An earthen yellow aura surged. It was heavy and terrifying as it blasted over like the sky flipping seal. It carried the aura of the reincarnation earth. Ice and darkness surged violently as if it wanted to freeze millions and millions of miles and freeze all the history of civilization. It carried the aura of the netherworld that penetrated through reincarnation. Metallic luster flickered and an expanse of light blossomed. It swept over with an indestructible aura that carried the aura of the mother gold liquid. Moreover, these 3 types of energy rotated and tangled together. It was extremely terrifying as they continuously superimposed and their power continued to amplify, rising to a level that made people tremble and horrified. The 3 types of light and the 3 kinds of rare and precious substances each had their own unique attribute. The light that blossomed finally tangled together and rotated continuously. Crack! Amidst the terrifying ear-piercing sound, they rotated. The wonderful 7 treasures technique realized a release at the 3rd transformation level. Its power was too terrifying as it directly twisted the god race's sword core into pieces. Ah! The emissary shouted. His corporeal body was also disintegrating because in the instant the sword core was broken, he seemed to be broken as well. His body exploded and his soul light dimmed quite a bit like a shooting star. Moreover, he fled with extreme speed as he still wanted to take advantage of this final opportunity to escape. Unfortunately, Chu Feng's wonderful 7 treasures technique was too special. The 3 kinds of rare and precious substances rotated and restrained his soul light before directly searching his soul. No. The divine king emissary from the god race shouted. His body was being destroyed and in the end, his soul light even exploded. Not even his corpse or bones remained as both his body and soul were destroyed. It was that simple. Chu Feng easily suppressed and killed this person. It could be said that he had crushed him. The so-called emissary, the so-called young divine king that came from the heavens, was obliterated by him just like that and turned into flying ashes. Chapter 1341. The so-called deceased didn't even have a corpse left. He was known as a top-notch divine king, but he was like a clay chicken in front of Chu Feng. His body and soul were completely annihilated. It's a bit of a pity. Chu Feng spoke. He explored the other party's soul light in order to obtain the secrets of the divine race. However, just like all the powerful races, the souls of the disciples of the top-notch races had restrictions. Once their souls were searched, they would self-destruct. Ordinary people would definitely be heavily injured when exploring and detonating the divine race's soul light, but Chu Feng was unharmed. In the distance, the quasi-immortal race's family members looked at him with a completely different expression. Even the black-faced Wudi's expression had long since turned stiff. Was this still the demon Chu from back then? Why was he even more evil than before? He was getting more and more outrageous and frightening. The emissary from above the heavens was eliminated by him with a flip of his hand as effortlessly as blowing off dust. Was he going to ascend to the heavens? Wudi was somewhat disordered. He really didn't know how to face Chu Feng and how to evaluate this demon Chu, who seemed to have an unclear relationship with his elder and younger sister. After calming down a little, he felt that with this kind of evolution speed of the great demon Chu Feng, he would definitely ascend to the heavens in the future. It was impossible not to go. The strongest heavenly tribulation is used less. I have to use it sparingly in the future, Chu Feng said to himself. He withdrew his divine king aura and made the strongest heavenly tribulation disappear. He still didn't want to cross it like this. He still wanted to find a place with no one to study it. He wanted to collect the heavenly tribulation. In the distance, the few people were petrified. What did they hear? How could this be possible? Chu Feng didn't withdraw from the divine king domain. Instead, he used the small gray millstone as a disguise to deceive the heavens. After all, he had to be on guard in the secret realm. The quasi-immortal race's old woman was dumbfounded. She was the one who brought that emissary to the battlefield and introduced him to Yingzhixian so that her clan could climb up the towering tree in the heavens. How could she have expected that elegant and incomparably powerful young divine king emissary to be killed? Moreover, he was easily obliterated by a great saint with a raise of his hand. Who was he? Was he really just Chowda? But he wasn't a great sage at all. He was definitely a great divine king. When she thought of the three words great divine king, the old woman's pupils contracted, and then two beams of light shot out. She was shocked, and even she herself was shocked by this thought. The growth of a great sage was already frightening enough. After reaching the divine king realm, could he still be a great divine king? It was truly shocking. From ancient times until now, those who were able to walk down this path and ultimately be able to stand at the top of the same domain and be known as the great divine king would inevitably become an Empyrean in a very short period of time. Their path was different from the rest. While they pursued the pinnacle, their efficiency was terrifyingly high. Once they succeeded, it was possible for them to swiftly make a name for themselves when the upheaval of the heavens began in the future. They would overcome all obstacles and might even dominate a path of evolution. Empyrean, an extremely young creature. Moreover, he might rise up in a short period of time and establish his own glory. The old woman's voice was trembling. However, such a person didn't seem to have a good impression of the quasi-immortal tribe. After all, they had just killed their accompanying emissary. The old woman's vision darkened. This great sage Chow, no, this person who should be called the great divine king, couldn't be planning to kill the quasi-immortal tribe, right? The quasi-immortal tribe's legendary guest was terrified. For a moment, her scalp went numb, and a chill ran down her spine as her entire body froze. Brother-in-law! At this moment, Ing Xiaoxiao was very happy as she shouted over there. She had finally completely let go of herself. That was because there were practically no outsiders here. The most crucial thing was that Chu Feng had such formidable strength, so how could he be afraid of the few people at the scene causing trouble? Very soon, she changed her way of addressing him and didn't call him brother-in-law. Instead, she directly called him Big Brother Chu. She quickly ran over. Her long silver hair reached her waist, and her smile was sweet. After so many years, she finally saw the person from back then in the Yang realm again. She smiled happily, but tears gradually emerged in her clear and beautiful eyes as she quickly rushed over. Not far away, Ing Zhexian's body trembled. Her flawless and exquisite face slightly stiffened. White mist once again pervaded the air, and it couldn't be seen clearly. As for that old woman, she went from being horrified to being in a daze, and in the end, she was delighted again. It was as if she was on a roller coaster. She went up and down, and she was in heaven one moment and in hell the next. She never would have thought that Ing Xiaoxiao would know the great sage Chowda. What kind of situation was this? Furthermore, the first thing she said just now was to call him brother-in-law? For a moment, this legendary guest's imagination ran wild. Could it be that this pair of sisters had an unusually close relationship with the great divine king in front of her? Were they competing with each other? It had to be said that the holes in her brain were very big, and she thought too much. She couldn't help but look at Ing Wudi, but in the end, she saw that this junior was simply about to become a black-faced deity. Furthermore, his expression was still changing unpredictably and was incomparably complicated. What kind of situation was this? Ing Black-Faced also knew that great divine king. Was there a dispute between them? The old woman's thoughts ran wild, and a few messy thoughts emerged in her mind. No matter what was said, she still let out a long sigh of relief. She reckoned that this great divine king in front of her wouldn't go so far as to silence them and shouldn't make things difficult for their lives. Ing Xiaoxiao rushed forward. The silver-haired little Lolita from back then had already grown up a long time ago. She was graceful and elegant, and she possessed an exceptionally beautiful countenance. Her eyes were like water, but they carried traces of tears. Chu Feng welcomed her and stroked her beautiful hair that was shining with silvery light right away. He rubbed her head forcefully. He was a little rueful, but at the same time, he was also very happy. This silver-haired young lady was very close to him back then, and they went through trials and tribulations together. For this reason, she didn't hesitate to go against her older brother and older sister. They had experienced many things. Ing Xiaoxiao had gone through life and death with him in the foreign realm and the little Yin realm. Don't cry. Chu Feng helped her wipe her tears. You're so annoying. Don't rub my head. You're still treating me like a child. I've already grown up a long time ago. Ing Xiaoxiao was crying and laughing at the same time as tears of joy flickered in her eyes. She even stuck out her chest as she spoke. It could be said that her curves were undulating, and her figure was tall and slender. She gave Chu Feng a hug. After that, she hugged one of his arms and didn't let go. She was very happy and excited as she recounted past events. She was like a cheerful skylark as she chirped continuously. Her voice was sweet-sounding and pleasant to listen to as if she had endless things to say. At the same time, she was incomparably concerned about Chu Feng. She asked him if he had been doing all these years and how exactly he had passed. A surge of warmth welled up in Chu Feng's heart. If one were to ask him how he had passed all these years, he could say that it was very monotonous and dull. After crossing reincarnation, he had secluded himself in the stone jar for 10 years. When he thought of this, he was immediately startled. His main memory was actually the divine monarch Dao fruit that had secluded himself in the stone jar? He was momentarily astonished. The Yang realm's soul light in the great saint state was supplemented by the divine monarch Tao fruit in the little Yin realm, and now the two were fused. After that, he looked into the distance and discovered that Ing Wudi's natural disposition was really hard to change. So many years had passed, but every time he saw him, he was always the same and had never changed. He still had a dark face. "Brother Ing, you're really unswerving. Your heart and mouth are the same and you're never fickle. Even if the world has changed and the seas have turned into mulberry fields, you've always been the same and always have a dark face," Chu Feng said. Ing Wudi, at #yen. He really wanted to beat up Chu Feng. He also really wanted to say, "Do you know how to use words? How to describe it? How to say it? Damn it." He was actually very handsome and his face was usually very fair. But every time he met Chu Feng, he couldn't help it. It could be said that the two of them were really born to clash. He always had a dark face because he always felt that the other party was seducing his elder and younger sister. Very soon, Ing Wudi came to a realization. When Chu Feng said that he had always been the same and that the world had changed, he seemed to be referring to something. He wasn't necessarily talking about him. Could it be that he was also targeting his elder sister? He quickly raised his head and looked in Ing Zhixian's direction. Please remember this book's domain name. The Third Sect Master's Mobile Version. Chapter 1342. On the other side, Ing Zhixian was very silent. When she heard that everything was the same from beginning to end, white mist lingered on her face, and she didn't move at all. Chu Feng and Ing Xiaoxiao reminisced about old times and didn't look in her direction. In reality, Chu Feng was also in a bit of a dilemma. Back then, Ing Zhixian had gone through life and death with him in the foreign realm at the very beginning. She also passed on the wonderful Seven Treasures technique to him and used her soul light to cultivate together. Even though he learned the complete wonderful Seven Treasures technique from that peculiar seven-colored tree branch in the first mountain. However, Ing Zhixian had indeed passed on the clan's technique back then. Back then, Ing Zhixian had given him a very good impression. Her clothes were whiter than snow and she was elegant and otherworldly. She was truly like a fairy that had descended into the human world. But in the end, after returning from the foreign realm, when Chu Feng was faced with the invasion of the Yang realm experts and was in a perilous situation, she had called out his name in front of everyone and exposed his identity at the moment of life and death crisis. At that moment, Chu Feng's heart was ice cold. But if he were to make a move now and target Ing Zhixian, it would be somewhat difficult to realize. After all, he was indebted to her and she was Ing Xiaoxiao's older sister. Chu Feng reminisced about old times with Ing Xiaoxiao and conversed with her heart while taking out the mother gold fragments on him. He was prepared to make the best use of his time to refine his weapon. These were a few pieces of metal that were as silver as suet jade. They were the diamond chakram from back then. During the process of reincarnation, it had suffered great power and was destroyed when it descended into the Yang realm. He wanted to reforge it before sacrificing his secret treasure. This diamond chakram of his wasn't simple at all. It was far from being comparable to ordinary mother gold. He thought it was trash when he obtained the material back then. Later on, he learned from Yao Yao that it was no small matter and that it was heaven-defying. It was the original mother gold with all kinds of oddities that needed to be explored on its own. It was indescribably unclear. Moreover, it was the only peculiar metal that could be combined with other mother gold. It could be considered a supreme heavenly material. As for the mother gold liquid pool, it could be considered a rare material of fortune since ancient times. Its characteristics overlapped with the original mother gold, but it was even more special. This was because it could be considered a material from before the creation of heaven and earth. It didn't exist after the creation of the world and was branded with many mysterious patterns. It was known as a material to refine ultimate weapons. There were records of it in the ancient books and how to use it. However, in the past, Whether it was prehistoric or ancient times, people treated it as a myth and did not believe that it really existed. Even if the great cosmos realm evolved beings that had undergone strange changes ran into the primal chaos outside the cosmos to search for it, they wouldn't be able to find it. From this, one could see how rare and heaven-defying this thing was. Thump! Chu Feng threw the broken diamond chakram into the 3 feet wide pool. Primal chaos energy leaked out, multicolored light rose, and the mother gold liquid surged. In the distance there was another envoy. It was the young expert above the sky that Chi Feng, the divine king of the 9-headed bird clan, had invited over. Now, he felt a bit cold and also a bit jealous. That was the mother gold liquid pool, one of the truly supreme substances, yet it was obtained by someone from the lower realm just like that? He was very unwilling, but he didn't dare to fight over it. The envoy who came from the same realm as him had died too miserably and didn't even have a corpse left behind. However, he was truly indignant and dissatisfied. With such a pool of mother gold liquid, even an ordinary weapon would definitely become a top-secret treasure after being refined in this pool, let alone mother gold. Not to mention the mother gold that Chowda had thrown in, it just so happened to be compatible with this pool. That's... He almost cried out in alarm. His expression changed abruptly because he recognized the mother gold that Chu Feng had thrown into the pool. It was actually the primordial form, the primordial mother gold. This kind of mother gold was too special. In the future, it could be mixed with all mother gold into one furnace and condense the natural Tao patterns contained in all kinds of mother gold to evolve into the ultimate supreme weapon. It could be said that this kind of mother gold was much more precious than other mother gold. It was difficult to find even 1 grain in many lifetimes, but now, someone had mastered so much that he could refine a complete weapon. There was boundless desire in the depths of his eyes. Not to mention him, even if his race's patriarch came out of isolation, he would be envious. Moreover, after going through the baptism and blessing of the mother gold pool, the ancestors of all the sects in the world would fight over it and fight to the death. However, he also knew that no matter how tempting it was, he still had to restrain himself. He simply didn't have the chance to obtain it. He wasn't a great divine king's opponent. He really wanted to leave and bring the news out. This kind of weapon was worthy of the race's exceptional experts descending to personally collect it. He resisted the urge and wanted to leave this place, but he discovered that Chowda had locked onto him. There was a faintly discernible killing intent pressing over, making his entire body go ice-cold. The silvery white metal pieces in the mother gold pool began to condense. As Chu Feng refined it with his essence energy according to the ancient method, the mother gold fragments fused together. In the end it was snow-white and brilliant. It gradually took shape and once again became the diamond chakram. Chu Feng revealed an odd expression. This diamond chakram was even more mysterious and powerful than before. The internal laws had truly been derived. Only then did he place it into the mother gold pool and refine it into a secret treasure. Glaring divine light rose from the liquid pool at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, it disappeared and submerged into the diamond chakram. Yingzhixian originally wanted to go over and speak, but she stopped after seeing the situation. She didn't want to disturb him. The liquid in the pool continuously turned into light and evolved into symbols. They continuously branded themselves on the diamond chakram and stimulated its mutation. Later on, there was a special layer of precious light on the diamond chakram. The patterns inside were mysterious and unfathomable. Chu Feng was pleasantly surprised because this weapon was destined to be extraordinary. Why do I feel like I'm witnessing the birth of the embryonic form of an ultimate weapon? Ying Xiaoxiao asked. Chu Feng was very focused. After the divine king's Tao fruit appeared without any concealment, it caused the heavenly tribulation to descend once more. Ying Xiaoxiao had no choice but to retreat quickly and didn't dare to stay here. When the most powerful lightning tribulation entered the pool liquid, it made the diamond chakram even more mysterious. It emitted a mist as if it had been bestowed life. Most of the liquid in the pool disappeared as it evaporated into light symbols and fused with the diamond chakram. Rumble. Between heaven and earth, the sound of thunder was deafening and countless bolts of lightning interweave. Ingzhixian remained silent for a long time. She wanted to speak several times, but now that she saw this scene, she had no choice but to retreat. To that young emissary this was an opportunity. He wanted to escape from this dangerous great divine king's side. However, Chu Feng shot him a cold glance. That kind of gaze was incomparably terrifying. It immediately made him feel uncomfortable, as if he was being pierced by a steel needle. His body stiffened as he clearly felt a killing intent as vast as the ocean. He didn't dare to move again. When he paid attention to the diamond chakram in the pool again, his expression changed once more. That diamond chakram was glowing as if it was going to illuminate the 33 heavens. It was too dazzling as boundless symbols lingered around it. There won't be another supreme ultimate weapon in the future, will there? He was shocked. After that, he witnessed with his own eyes that after this diamond chakram glowed, the 33 heavens seemed to appear faintly as if it was going to pierce through the past and present. It can illuminate the 33 heavens now? This is the embryonic form of an ultimate weapon. The heart of the emissary who came from above trembled. He continued to write. Chapter 1343. He simply didn't dare believe it. He really saw the 33-layered heavens void figure, as well as felt the boundless pressure. The emissary was shocked. At this time, Chu Feng didn't pay these things any attention, producing another weapon, precisely the heavenly blood starry sky source gold sword core. However, he didn't want to refine it, but rather melt it down. He threw this artifact into the pool. He could see the sword core being absorbed by the diamond band. The sword core came from a dragon nest in the desolate border, formed from two types of mother gold, respectively heavenly blood source gold and starry sky source gold. Now it was absorbed by the diamond band, obtaining its essence. The sword core grew dim at a visible speed, and then it disintegrated, disappearing. This is the process an ultimate artifact has to go through. The 33-layered heavens diamond band will appear. This time, the divine king emissary's heart rose and fell even more intensely. Heavenly blood source gold was rumored to be flowing with the blood of the heavens, ultimately turning into mother gold. There was even less to say about starry sky source gold. It was as brilliant and beautiful as a starry sky, at the same time carrying black spots, as if they were black holes, deriving the mysteries of the cosmos. These two types of mother gold had their essence absorbed by the diamond band, leaving behind some dregs. They were already trash, abandoned. Meanwhile, the diamond band itself didn't change in size, still the same as before. However, in the eyes of others, this was even more terrifying. This weapon was deriving its own patterns, establishing an internal small world. Later on, this bracelet was about to form. It was accompanied by great Tao sounds, ringing like a great bell, so loud that even the deaf could hear. Regardless, I should leave, find someone to kill him. The young divine king emissary turned around to leave. He wanted to bring news back, have the clan's experts descend, kill Chu Feng, seize this ultimate artifact core. Where do you think you're going? Chu Feng shouted. He naturally wouldn't let this person go. After learning his secret, how could he let him leave? Apart from this person wasn't a good person to begin with. Previously, he was still bossy, arrogant and haughty, making Chu Feng offer up pool liquid. The reason why he played his part now was completely because he was intimidated by Chu Feng's divine king-level strength. Chu Feng's fist imprint smashed out. Heaven and earth erupted, lightning flashing and thunder rumbling as he attacked the emissary. Divine escape 500,000 li. The young divine king released a low roar. He used a talisman, wishing to escape from this place. He took out an escape talisman and wanted to escape in an instant. Chowda, just you wait. It doesn't matter if you are the great divine lord or something else. It won't be long before I invite the experts of the clan over to kill you. He swore to himself. With one last glance, his eyes were ice cold. At the same time, he rejoiced inwardly that Chowda was at a critical moment in artifact forging and had the time to stop him. Light shone beneath Chu Feng's feet as he activated his secret domain technique. This caused the entire small world to tremble violently and interfere with his escape. Moreover, he was going to chase after him. He felt that it would not affect the forging process. It would be fine to let the diamond chakram transform itself here. Suddenly, at this moment, he felt something strange. The diamond chakram was about to be refined. This efficiency was too shocking. It was completed in such a short period of time. Meanwhile, the entire pool of liquid turned into light, turned into symbols, and then completely disappeared, absorbed and merged with the diamond chakram. With a whoosh, it appeared directly in Chu Feng's hands. It was magnificent, and the luster of the mother gold circulated. It was like the most perfect and outstanding work of art in the heavens. Go! Almost in the blink of an eye, Chu Feng struck out. This diamond chakram's revolving speed was too fast. It was actually flowing with strands of time energy. It left in a flash and caught up to the emissary in the sky, even though it was moving later. This young divine king was astonished. He quickly took out all of his weapons and activated his most powerful defense. However, with a boom, all of the Divine King-level secret treasures exploded. They were all pierced through by the diamond chakram. That piece of paper burned and turned into light. It formed all kinds of symbols and enveloped the emissary as he flew into the sky and tunneled into the earth. But now, he had been caught up. The diamond chakram exploded the glowing and burning talisman paper with a boom, and the emissary was sent flying amidst a miserable scream. In the end, he fell to the ground. His physical body almost disintegrated. More than half of it had collapsed, and it was a tragic sight to behold. All of the defensive treasures on his body had been destroyed. Chowda! He was astonished and somewhat terrified. This diamond chakram actually had such power? Then, he saw Chu Feng chasing over and immediately felt horrified. A great divine king was approaching. Could he still survive? But this diamond chakram was clearly comparable to a great divine king. Its might was terrifying. "I'll fight you to the death," he shouted. It was because Chu Feng was too fast, arriving almost instantly. Moreover, that diamond chakram rose and fell on its own, smashing towards him again. How? Chu Feng was indifferent. The emissary's expression suddenly changed. He knew that the other party could indeed easily suppress him and that he was definitely not his opponent. However, he still clenched his teeth and said, "Then let's die together." With a boom, he used a special talisman paper that released blinding radiance. He actually wanted to ignite this secret realm and destroy this place, dragging Chu Feng down with him. If the small world exploded, everyone would naturally die. This was indeed a method of mutual destruction. He wanted this secret realm to go down with everyone. "Withdraw!" Chu Feng shouted, remotely controlling the diamond chakram. This chakram shone brilliantly, but the inner ring was dark. It turned into a black hole and frantically devoured everything. In the end, it directly swallowed the emissary. During this process, the talisman paper in the emissary's hand was swallowed. The great danger of the secret realm being destroyed was immediately resolved. The emissary was overwhelmed with shock. His talisman paper possessed great divine king-level energy, but it could only passively burn. It was difficult to accurately deal with the enemy. Detonating this small world was just right, but now it was forcefully taken away by someone. Chu Feng could control his own power once or twice, but if he used great divine king-level energy all the time, this place would definitely be destroyed. From a certain perspective, A great divine king's energy surpassed divine kings by a large margin. They were practically not in the same domain and could destroy this secret realm. Boom! At the same time, the emissary screamed miserably because he was disintegrating. His originally broken body was stripped of large amounts of flesh and blood by the diamond chakram's inner ring. Then, he was devoured and disintegrated by that black hole. No! He shouted loudly. Then, his soul light struggled free and fled into the distance. As for his physical body, it was completely devoured and turned into flying ashes in the black hole of the diamond chakram's inner ring. Where do you think you're going? Chu Feng shouted again. The diamond chakram trembled and the black hole disappeared. A portion of the ashes scattered down, which were left behind by the emissary's physical body. After that, the diamond chakram flew out like a streak of flowing light. It instantly wrapped around that soul light like a rope and restrained him back. The emissary simply couldn't believe it. He was in soul light state and had used a secret technique to pass through all kinds of obstructions, but this diamond chakram could actually restrain him so easily. It could kill the physical body and destroy the tangible body. It could also suppress soul light. This diamond chakram's various wonderful uses were just beginning to manifest a little. In a flash, the diamond chakram shrunk and became a ring. It locked that emissary's soul light and returned to Chu Feng's hand. "Don't hurt me. I can tell you a great secret," cried the emissary. He was no longer high-spirited like before. "What secret?" asked Chu Feng. "My realm has a path to kill into the heavens. That's a place where the strongest experts from all the worlds in the heavens must go. A person like you will definitely be interested and will certainly go there in the future," said the emissary quickly. These words shocked Yingzhixian and the legendary figures of the quasi-saint race. After that, they listened attentively because they had heard some rumors in the past. "Very good. I hope you can satisfy me." Chu Feng nodded. "Yes. Yes." Chapter 1344. Above the heavens wasn't the so-called high heavens. There was another place. The so-called high heavens was a legend that contained endless blood and myths. It surpassed everything. In the eyes of the emissary's clan's primogenitor, that place was too mysterious and incomparably terrifying. Unfortunately, even someone as strong as their clan's primogenitor couldn't enter. They were only in charge of guarding a path and sending off those who could truly ascend to the heavens with their eyes. What else? Chu Feng wasn't satisfied. He looked down at the diamond chakram in his hand. Within that inner ring, specks of flowing light were imprisoning a thumb-sized soul light that was trembling unceasingly. Those who aren't the strongest in the history of civilization can't go up to the high heavens. Those who go have all experienced abnormalities. Also, the high heavens is very evil. Some say it's full of vitality, some say it's a stretch of desolation, and some say it's just the dust of time. Some say it's the source of the strangeness, and some say it's the end of the underworld's old land. Even the reincarnation path spreads out from there. Some say a speck of dust drifting down from the high heavens can open up a large world. It's far more mysterious and magnificent than what we imagine. Perhaps it can also be said to be terrifying. This emissary's soul light trembled as he tried his best to talk about valuable things. Chu Feng said, "I wouldn't even be willing to go to such a lousy place." What did he hear? It was mysterious and dangerous. It wasn't a good place either. No matter how he heard it, it sounded like a wretched land. After that, he stared at the emissary with an unkind expression. What kind of lousy place was that? What value did it have? He wasn't satisfied at all. The emissary was stunned. Then, he felt powerless. As long as one had the ambition to become the strongest, who wouldn't care about that legendary place? There wasn't a single person who didn't want to go up. "This kind of information is worthless," said Chu Feng. He was about to deal a killing blow to him. "Wait a moment." The emissary was scared out of his wits. he shouted. As long as one is the strongest, don't go to the high heavens. Because the world we are in, the territory we are in, there's simply no such thing as eternity. Everything that enters our eyes will collapse, and everything that exists will eventually dissipate. It will always decline and turn into ruins. Chu Feng looked at him and said, "Then tell me, what kind of place is the high heavens? There are so many people who say it, but in the end it's all rumors and they're all unreliable." The emissary opened his mouth. His heartstrings were taut, and at the same time, he felt helpless. His family was very powerful, but their knowledge was indeed limited. In the end, he had no choice but to directly say that this was a path that could lead to the heavens. However, from ancient times until now, no one from their clan had ever succeeded. At the same time, the only reason they knew about this was because they had seen some broken jade slips and picked up some tattered human skull books on the road. All of these were the last words of the creatures who had died on that path, their deductions. Chu Feng was speechless and really wanted to spit on his face. You believe the words of a bunch of losers? They didn't even go up themselves. When the emissary heard that, he felt awkward. That was indeed the truth. Actually, the degree of trustworthiness is still quite high. Creatures of that level, even if they failed and died along the way, they had still reached the most powerful domain in the past. Perhaps they had long come into contact with something, and that was why they were able to make that type of conjecture. The emissary explained. How many of these paths are there? Chu Feng asked. There is only one. We guard it together with several clans, and from time to time, we can search for and excavate a few heaven and earth wondrous treasures. Only the most powerful clans can approach that place, and only then can possess it. This emissary blabbered on and on like frying beans, saying everything he knew that he could say. Chu Feng sighed and said, So it turns out that you're all scavengers. You're all scavengers. You're digging an old road that's been broken through by God knows how many civilizations. You're excavating the remains and artifacts under the soil. The emissary was speechless. What else could he say? Strictly speaking, this was indeed the case. Is there a secret incantation that can open up that path's gate? Chu Feng asked. This time, it was the emissary who wanted to spit on his face. What was he thinking? Could it be that he was thinking that by chanting "Open Sesame, the heavens open," he could open up that broken path? He really wanted to spit dog blood at his face. Wrong, divine king blood. The emissary was a bit muddle-headed, because he was extremely unconvinced. Not even their clan's ancestors could enter, even those with great divine abilities lingering on the path for many years, unable to find the way, unable to enter. How do the people of high heavens cultivate? What do they rely on to evolve? Seeds? Chu Feng asked. He had always been guessing the origins of those 3 seeds, and now he was a little suspicious. Did they fall from high heavens? From the imprint passed down by their clan's ancestors, he discovered that the origins of the 3 seeds were shocking. They had previously resonated with a certain myriad chi cauldron, resonated with the bronze coffin, and then shattered the void and left. That cauldron was one thing, it should be the weapon of a certain celestial emperor, but there seemed to be 3 bronze coffins, involving the most powerful experts of different eras. The 3 seeds actually had such a long history, running through who knew how many civilizations' histories. However, they were only seeds, plants, and not metals. They actually didn't rot, and could survive for a long time without ever spoiling. Chu Feng had high hopes for the 3 seeds. Next, he would have to use them, and he had to investigate their secret. The emissary said, On that broken path, an incomplete jade slip was unearthed. It mentioned that using pollen to evolve is very important. In the system of the high heavens, this is a very important branch path, and its civilization was once extremely resplendent. However, for some unknown reason, it seemed to be lacking something, and it gradually declined. After Chu Feng heard this, he crossed his arms and didn't say anything, letting his imagination run wild. Beside him, Yingzhixian and the legendary figures of the quasi-saint race were lost in thought after hearing this. This was very different from the bits and pieces of information they had heard through special channels. In the situation they knew, even if the heavens were very terrifying, it now seemed to be similar to the Yang realm, and it was still far from high heavens. Is there anything else special? Did you guys see any objects that fell from high heavens on that road? Chu Feng asked. He had doubts about the 3 seeds, and he wanted to find the answer. The emissary was dizzy, and he secretly cursed. If there really was such a thing, their race would have ascended to high heavens a long time ago. Why were they still searching and digging broken roads? However, he quickly thought of a stone wall. Every time the sun set, a blurry pattern would appear, and it was faintly moving. Yes, there is a stone cliff on the broken road, and legend has it that it fell from high heavens. Every time the sun sets, it looks like it's bleeding, and a coffin will appear. It's like a fairy that wants to carry people far away in the blood-colored sea. However, no one could comprehend it thoroughly. If someone really wanted to stretch out their soul light and enter the coffin fairy on the stone wall, they would turn into a drop of blood in the end. After Chu Feng heard this, he was dumbstruck. What kind of demonic stone wall was this? Even a coffin pattern could be like this? No one has gone to that broken cliff for many years. I don't know if it's still there, said the emissary. While he was saying these words, his soul light suddenly erupted with glaring divine multicolored light. A mirror struggled free from his soul and shone at Chu Feng. He suddenly counterattacked and dealt a fatal blow. He was unwilling to shrink to the size of a thumb and be imprisoned in the inner ring of the diamond chakram. This was their race's restriction. It was originally engraved in the depths of their soul to prevent people from exploring their race's mysterious technique. In the end, he activated it now to kill the enemy. Bang! This was a restriction left behind by a powerful figure. It evolved into a mirror, and the radiance it emitted was too intense. Normally speaking, as long as the soul light of other races was illuminated, they would melt like ice and snow before disappearing completely. The restriction laid down by the race's powerhouses was extremely terrifying. Bang! As Chu Feng evaded, he brandished the heavenly tribulation that filled the sky. Countless lightning rays drowned out the mirror light. At the same time, he activated the diamond chakram. It glistened brightly and fiercely contracted. The emissary's soul let out a blood-curdling screech as it completely turned into ashes. Along with his disappearance, that mirror also disintegrated. It was originally attached to him, and now that the emissary himself was gone, the restriction naturally disappeared as well. With a ding, the diamond chakram emitted a clear and melodious sound. It was sparkling and translucent like a piece of jade, as it appeared in Chu Feng's hand and was worn on his wrist. It was snow-white like jade and still as translucent and brilliant as before. It absorbed the heavenly blood mother gold and the starry sky mother gold, but its own color didn't change. It was still pure white like suet jade. However, there were some patterns on it. Those were the most mysterious traces of the great Tao. They came from the other 2 types of mother gold, and most of the patterns came from the mother gold liquid pool. A piece of ordinary iron thrown into the mother gold liquid pool could transform into a secret treasure, let alone the diamond chakram transformed from Chu Feng's primordial mother gold. The entire world was silent. The 2 emissaries that came from above the heavens were dead. They were killed by Chu Feng. The old woman from the quasi-immortal race was scared. This was a great divine king, and if they were to fall out with each other, they would definitely have to bear the consequences and it would be difficult for them to survive. At first, she still placed her hopes on Ing Xiaoxiao and felt that she was very familiar with this great divine king. But why was there a strong uneasiness now? The quasi-immortal race's legendary figure felt an extremely strong killing intent that locked onto her and Yingzhixian. At this moment, Yingzhixian finally moved. She raised her head and looked at Chu Feng as she walked over step by step. She was indeed very beautiful, and her charm was exceptional. As her white clothes fluttered in the wind, it was as if she had walked out from the Moon Palace. She was otherworldly. "Chu Feng," she called out softly. "I'll continue to work hard tomorrow." Chapter 1345. Chu Feng looked at her. Her appearance hadn't changed in the slightest after so many years. It was very difficult for time to leave any traces on the face of an evolver in her golden years. Yingzhixian had a beauty that could topple cities. Her figure was graceful, and could be said to have skin of ice and bones of jade. She was once known as the third beauty under the starry sky in the entire Lesser Een realm cosmos. She indeed had a beauty that could captivate even birds and beasts. Her fair and translucent face was perfect and flawless. She was now looking at Chu Feng in a daze. After calling his name, she didn't speak again. She was lost in thought, as if she had sunk into some kind of old memory and was immersed in some kind of indescribable emotion. Chu Feng didn't say anything and was also staring at her. Until a long time passed. "I'm sorry about what happened back then," Yingzhixian said in a very soft and slightly sad voice. She was silent for a moment after saying that. Chu Feng was very calm and didn't say anything. He was still looking at her without a ripple on his face. At this moment, Yingzhixian suddenly raised her head. Her voice was no longer low, and she was no longer immersed in an indescribable emotion. Her eyes were clear and her beautiful hair danced lightly. She said calmly, "If I were to return to the past and return to that day, I would still do the same thing." Chu Feng was stunned after hearing that. He originally thought that Yingzhixian was lowering her head to avoid bringing disaster to the quasi-immortal race, but he didn't expect that her last sentence didn't mean that. "Why?" Chu Feng asked. He really wanted to kill her. Yingzhixian exposed him back then and put him in danger. He could easily be killed, but she actually still had this attitude today. Chu Feng's eyebrows were like two swords that were slightly raised and intimidating. "Would you believe me if I said that I had no choice but to do that?" Yingzhixian was no longer low. She was very calm and looked up at him. At this moment, she had become calm. Her swan-like snow-white neck was raised and there was no fear in her beautiful eyes. However, there was still some guilt in her eyes. After all, what she did back then had indeed endangered Chu Feng and made him very passive. If his strength wasn't profound enough, he would have died there. Yingzhixian said, "Will you believe what I'm about to say next?" "Go ahead." Chu Feng replied calmly without any joy or worry. "Back then, someone had already discovered you. They had a special bone mirror that reflected your true appearance, and I was in that region, personally witnessing it." Yingzhixian slowly recounted the events of the past. At that time, their situation wasn't very good. Some people wanted to harm them, and they didn't know if they could safely reach the world of the living. In order to gain their trust and to protect themselves, she directly called out Chu Feng's identity. "I know that you won't forgive me no matter what the reason is. However, for the sake of my clansmen, for the sake of my younger sister being able to reach the Yang realm alive, reach a safe area, and finally obtain the protection of the Yang realm's quasi-immortal tribe, I have no other choice. If I were to do it all over again, I might do it again." She lowered her voice and sounded a little sad. Her eyes were filled with helplessness and desolation. "I know I've let you down, but, at that time," she said softly, "some things didn't need to be said too much, and some things didn't need to be explained too clearly." Chu Feng knew what she meant. It didn't seem like she was heartless. After all, his identity had already been exposed at that time, and she was only taking advantage of the situation to protect her younger sister and clansmen. However, if she wasn't heartless, then she wasn't objective either. "I admit that I'm more inclined to protect my family and myself, as well as your problems." Her voice was very, very low. "Elder sister." At this moment, Ying Xiaoxiao rushed over with quick steps and hugged one of her arms. Glistening tears appeared in her eyes. "I know that elder sister has always been protecting me. Even though I've never given her a good attitude all these years, I know that she cares about me very much and thinks about me in everything," she said softly. Moreover, she turned around to look at Chu Feng, afraid that he would harm Ing Zhixian. Chu Feng didn't have the intention to kill her. He never had that thought because he thought about the past. Ing Zhixian had done him a favor in the beginning after all. When they were in the foreign realm, they went through life and death together. She taught him wonderful techniques, and the two of them advanced hand in hand and often went through trials and tribulations together. What he needed to do now might be to sever everything from the past. From then on, they would be strangers when they met, but if there were still grudges, then that was another matter altogether. Now that Ing Zhixian had explained it like this, what else could he say? Ing Xiaoxiao's waist-length silver hair was sparkling as she said, "Actually, I know that there's actually a reason why elder sister loves her family and loves me more than she loves herself and more than you." She felt very regretful when she mentioned what happened back then. Chu Feng didn't stop her and let her continue speaking. "That's because elder sister has forgotten what happened in the foreign realm. She comprehended 100 years of Tao in one night. After we returned to reality, she forgot everything we experienced in the foreign realm. She doesn't have any impression of your experiences with her and the 100 years that passed between you and her. Apart from you, the rest of us suffered the suppression of the rules. After we returned to the little netherworld cosmos, our memories of the foreign realm were erased. If elder sister still remembers the bits and pieces of the time when you were together, I believe that she'll certainly be very pained if your identity is exposed. She won't know what to do. She'd rather die than use this to protect her family and me. I think that if she remembers the past in the foreign realm, she'll care about you very much, and it's impossible for her to let go." Ing Xiaoxiao narrated unceasingly and explained the cause and effect. After returning, Chu Feng had once looked for those old friends and told them about what happened in the foreign realm. However, that kind of memory and that kind of awakening was like listening to someone else's story. It was very difficult for it to be as deep as what he had experienced in the past. Therefore, even if Ing Zhixian knew some things about the foreign realm later on, it was impossible for her to arouse the feelings from when she was in the foreign realm again. That was because she was more like a bystander than someone who had personally experienced it. At the side, the old woman from the quasi-immortal race was dumbstruck. She completely understood that this great divine king was the devil in the little netherworld who had caused an uproar back then, Chu Feng. Even she knew of Chu Feng's name. It could be seen that the commotion that Chu Feng had caused in the past wasn't small. That was because before Chu Feng had entered the Yang realm, he had killed a group of gods in the Yang realm. Moreover, even the 8th god in the world, Qi Ming, had died in the little netherworld. He had been beheaded by the devil Chu Feng, which had caused quite a stir back then. Apart from that, it was also rumored that the little devil Chu Feng had grasped the ultimate weapon of the Yang realm and possessed a supreme treasure. At that time, a Dharma body of Taiwu had died in the little netherworld because of this treasure, which caused a very big disturbance. It could be said that for so many years, even though Chu Feng hadn't entered the Yang realm and was still in the little netherworld, his name had already spread in this realm. On top of that, the sudden appearance of such a group of geniuses from the Chu clan, "My elder brother is Chu Feng, my uncle is Chu Feng," caused even more of a huge commotion. When these geniuses were discovered at that time, it made all the sects dumbstruck for a very long time. They really felt that it was outrageous and strange. This also further led to Chu Feng becoming a minor celebrity in the Yang realm. It could be said that for so many years, even though Chu Feng hadn't shown himself, there were already legends about him in Jianghu. The old woman was a little afraid. This was the devil Chu Feng. He actually became the great divine king? How many years had it been since he reincarnated? How did he cultivate? It could be said to be a miracle. He could compete with the creature with the fastest evolution speed in history. This was simply unbelievable. How many great divine kings could there be since ancient times? The youth in front of her was one, and he had a lot to do with their clan. After the old woman thought about it, she was a little afraid. This great divine king's identity definitely couldn't be leaked. This was a very big matter. Would he directly kill her to silence her? She was a little afraid because this was the most effective way for Chu Feng to solve the problem. It was simple and crude. She couldn't help but have resentment in her heart. She blamed Ying Zhixian for revealing Chu Feng's identity in front of her. Now there was no leeway. At this time, Chu Feng finally made his move after being silent for a long time. With a ripping sound, his palm emitted a three-colored radiance. It was the wonderful seven treasures technique. With a light sweep, he restrained Ying Zhixian. This ultimate wonderful technique was known to be able to brush down all living things. Naturally, it couldn't be any easier to subdue someone like this. Chu Feng, you, let go of my elder sister, shouted Ying Wudi. But after he clenched his fists tightly, he didn't dare to act rashly. He was afraid that he would infuriate Chu Feng and suddenly kill him. However, just as he finished speaking, Chu Feng made his move again. The authentic wonderful seven treasures technique was unleashed. Ying Xiaoxiao also flew over and landed next to him. You won't even let my younger sister off? Shouted Ying Wudi. Chu Feng raised his hand and touched Ying Zhixian's forehead and beautiful hair. Ying Wudi was fretful as he shouted, What are you trying to do? You actually want to disrespect my elder sister? Great demon Chu Feng, you can't be like this. Have you forgotten how sincere, pure, and righteous you used to be? After that, he wanted to slap his own mouth. Those weren't good words back then. It was the great demon Chu Feng who was boasting himself. Sincere, pure, and kind divine King Chu, supremely righteous reincarnation king. Ying Wudi felt that this kind of words had to be heard in reverse. Ah, you won't even let my younger sister off and want to disrespect her. Great demon Chu Feng, I'm going to fight it out with you. You can step over my corpse first. Ying Wudi was anxious. That was because he saw that Chu Feng had also extended his evil hand toward Ying Xiaoxiao. Let go of me. I'm warning you, you can only choose between my elder sister and my younger sister at most. You beast, you're actually thinking about both sisters. Ying Wudi shouted. He was worried on one hand, and on the other hand, he wanted to use this to make Chu Feng relax. That was because what he was most afraid of wasn't Chu Feng acting recklessly, but rather, he was afraid that he would kill his elder sister. In the next moment, his face turned deathly pale because could it be that what he was most worried about was really going to happen? He saw one of Chu Feng's fingers light up. It was very glaring and it was like a divine spear as it stabbed toward his elder sister. If he stabbed her, a bloody hole would certainly appear. It would go through from front to back and even her soul light would be completely strangled. After all, the one who made a move was a great divine king. Chu Feng, I'll lower my head. I won't oppose it anymore. You can take both my elder sister and my younger sister away. Sisters are sisters, but you can't use underhanded methods. Don't kill them. Ying Wudi shouted. He really wasn't shouting randomly, but he was incomparably worried about Ying Zhixian's safety. He was afraid that she would be harmed. Chu Feng tilted his head to look at him. It's true. What I said is true. I'll call you brother-in-law in the future. No, brother-in-law. Motherf ***, I'm calling you a great demon. This seniority is messed up. Number 6 had something to do and had to stop updating for a day. Number 7 started to work hard to update. Chapter 1346. Chu Feng looked at Ying Wudi. His gaze was intense as it swept across his body like two divine swords streaking across the void. It actually emitted a slight metallic sound. He was indeed somewhat astonished. Was this even possible? The dark-faced brother-in-law's attitude today took a 180-degree turn and was completely different from before. Ying Wudi had really changed today. It was truly beyond imagination that he could even say such words. Chu Feng's expression was ice-cold as usual. His aura was terrifying as he asked, "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Ing Wudi looked up at the sky and felt like crying. What kind of #yen%? He wanted to kill someone, yet he was actually so aggrieved today. That was because he was really afraid that Chu Feng would kill his older sister. That sparkling finger had already poked Ing Zhixian's lustrous forehead, causing a streak of dark red blood to drip down. A great divine king. If he continued like this, that beautiful head of hers would be directly penetrated and she would perish. No matter how great Ing Zhixian's life was, her soul bone would still be strangled and she would die thoroughly. Soon after, Ing Wudi looked at his younger sister. In any case, she also liked Chu Feng. Just treat it as saving her older sister. Marry one, get one free. And at this moment, he also opened his mouth. He looked at his older and younger sister and said in a slightly gloomy manner, "No matter how good your younger sister is, she's still someone else's." Chu Feng's expression was odd. Today, this Ing Wudi was really throwing caution to the wind. He dared to say anything from his mouth. Very soon, he felt that something was amiss. This Ing Wudi seemed to be speaking nonsense on purpose. Was this to change the austere and cold atmosphere here? That was it. Chu Feng felt that this dark-faced brother-in-law wasn't stupid and was more astute than he imagined. He was intentionally saying some excessive words. In reality, Ing Wudi's main objective was to reduce Chu Feng's killing intent. His main objective was still to save his older sister. Ing Wudi felt that the killing intent Chu Feng revealed was too strong. It would be very difficult to change anything with normal persuasion, so he changed his usual style. "Chu Feng, are you really going to kill my sister?" Ing Xiaoxiao was also frightened as she stood beside Chu Feng. Her silver hair that reached her waist shone brilliantly, and fear and worry were written all over her face. She hugged one of Chu Feng's arms as she didn't want him to harm her older sister. Ing Wudi saw that the space between his older sister's brows was still dripping blood incessantly. It was exceptionally bright red and eye-catching. His face turned deathly pale as he shouted, "Chu Feng, great demon Chu, what else do you want? I've fulfilled your deepest wish. Marry one and get one free. Big sister and little sister are all yours." The killing intent Chu Feng displayed was indeed very strong, but he didn't want to kill her. He only wanted to temporarily intimidate and scare her. He wanted to see Ing Zhixian's true reaction and whether or not she would lower her head and beg him to let her go. However, Ing Zhixian was very quiet. Even if there were sparkling and translucent beads of blood that ceaselessly slid down from her lustrous forehead and dyed her absolutely beautiful and flawless beautiful face red, she didn't have a single ripple of emotion. So much so that when she looked at Chu Feng, there was a kind of relief. In the end, there was also a kind of sadness. "I'm sorry." "Do it," said Ing Zhixian. Chu Feng frowned. In the past, he always felt that Ing Zhixian's thoughts were very deep. Now, was she really calm and unafraid of death, or was she going to stop after seeing through him? He didn't feel like probing anymore, and he didn't want to see her soul light. Since she had already made a decision, they would be strangers in the world from now on. There was no need to do these things. He prepared to stop. "Chu Feng, what exactly do you want? Are you going to marry my older sister or not? I've already retreated to the edge of the cliff. Do you still want to force me?" Ing Wudi panted heavily as he asked loudly over there with reddened eyes. Chu Feng shot him a glance but didn't say anything. Instead, he looked straight at that legendary figure of the quasi-saint race, a very powerful female divine king. "Her too. Come over here," Chu Feng said. Ing Wudi was completely petrified. His eyes were wide open as he immediately dug his ears. He suspected whether he had heard wrongly or not. Or could it be that Chu Feng was indeed deranged and had already gone mad? Ing Xiaoxiao was also speechless. Her large eyes were perfectly round and her small mouth formed an O shape. She was a little silly and adorable. Even Ing Zhixian was stunned as she looked at Chu Feng in a daze. "You beast! You won't even let my great-aunt off?" Ing Wudi shouted. That old woman, the divine king of the quasi-saint race, almost jumped up. She shook her head forcefully to make sure that she hadn't heard wrongly. She wanted to kill Ing Wudi, so what was she yelling for? Then, she looked at Chu Feng again. In the end, she discovered that he was really beckoning her to come over. The old woman looked as if she had seen a living ghost. She was a beauty when she was young. Even though her hair was white now, she still had a beautiful appearance. However, being teased by a junior like this was too much. It was too unsightly and absolutely unacceptable. "What are you thinking about? Come over here." Chu Feng waved his hand and unleashed the authentic wonderful seven treasures technique. A rainbow light swept past and swept everything away. With a whoosh, the old woman was captured alive and held in his hands. "Even if you're the great divine king, I won't obey," the old woman shouted. Bang! Chu Feng gave her a slap on the face, and she fainted in an instant. "You come over too." Chu Feng attacked Ing Wudi again. A divine rainbow swept out and detained him in front of his eyes in a split second. "What?" Ing Wudi shouted. "Including him?" For a moment, he was in a mess. Chu Feng didn't pay attention to him. Instead, he raised his hand and streaked it across the old woman's head. Beams of light overflowed as he was the first to make a move on her. At the same time, he was circulating the quasi-saint race's breathing technique. White mist sprayed out from his mouth and nose. His entire body was a blur as if a celestial immortal had descended into the world. Before Chu Feng left the Little Yin realm, he had once visited the secret storehouses of each race. He had gone through all the ancient books of the top 10 races and grasped many kinds of breathing technique. Unfortunately, they were all incomplete techniques compared to the Yang realm. Moreover, they were only up to the Illumination realm and the Deity realm. Otherwise, if he had the breathing techniques of the Tao race, the Buddhist race, the quasi-saint race, and the origin demon race all gathered in one body, he would absolutely be able to walk unhindered in the future if he cultivated like this all year round. There had never been anyone who could grasp so many ultimate breathing techniques. But it was enough for the moment. He used the quasi-saint race's breathing technique to erase part of the old woman's memories, but he changed part of them so that he wouldn't leave any clues. This was a decision he had made a long time ago. For Ing Xiaoxiao's sake, it was impossible for him to massacre her clansmen here. He only wanted to erase part of their memories. That was because he absolutely couldn't reveal his identity now. No matter what, he had to wait until he left. He still had to continue harvesting fortunes. In a flash, the old woman rolled her eyes. Her memories in this secret realm were erased and then changed. Chu Feng didn't want her to talk nonsense after she left. Ing Wudi immediately understood what Chu Feng was doing. He wasn't trying to kill his elder sister just now. He was just intimidating and erasing a certain part of her memories? Ing Xiaoxiao pleaded and said, "Big Brother Chu, I really don't want to lose this part of my memories. We finally met after so much difficulty, so I want to remember today. Otherwise, I'll go back to square one and have nothing related to you in the Yang realm." "Your memories won't be erased," said Chu Feng. "Instead, they'll be preserved in the depths of your consciousness. You'll remember everything the next time we meet again." After that, he seemed to have thought of something and took out a fruit from his body. It was brilliant and dazzling, and it was suffused with an alluring fragrance. At the same time, it had great Tao patterns that lingered on it. "This is..." The old woman opened her eyes at an inopportune moment. After seeing this fruit, she was completely shaken. She felt her mind tremble, and her entire body spasmed as if she was about to sprout wings and ascend. What did she see? The bloodline fruit was related to the immortal race. This was exactly the same as what was recorded in the history books. The quasi-immortal race, as the name implied, was related to the immortal race. According to legend, they were the descendants of the immortal race left in the Yang realm. This kind of fruit could allow the quasi-immortal race to return to their origin and reconstruct their blood and soul. They were said to be the exotic wasteland quasi-immortal race, but in fact, some people speculated that they were transforming into the bloodline of the ancient immortal race. Where did Chu Feng get this? He actually wanted to give Ing Xiaoxiao this kind of fruit. The old woman was completely stupefied and shocked. Similarly, Ing Zhixian and Ing Wudi found out what this fruit was from the old woman. The two of them were also shocked because this fruit was of great importance. Not long ago, there was a rumor that the descendant of the martial madman went to pick the fortune left behind by Li Su. It was suspected to be the bloodline fruit, but in the end, he never returned and died overseas. He actually fell into your hands. The old woman's voice was trembling. How troublesome. Pass out and don't wake up for a while. Chu Feng gave her another slap. This time, he increased his strength and changed her memories once more. Ing Zhixian and Ing Wudi were indescribably shocked. After Chu Feng entered the Yang realm, he was a little too domineering. He had long since gone to find trouble with the descendant of the martial madman. From the looks of it, he had already successfully intercepted and killed the descendant of the martial madman, a third revolution extinction king. Chu Feng let Ing Xiaoxiao eat it right away. Ing Xiaoxiao was a little dazed and hadn't come back to her senses yet. Chu Feng helped her decisively. He stuffed it into her mouth, touched her red lips, and began to help her refine it into her body. This couldn't be done on the spot. It would take at least 3 days and 3 nights to absorb the bloodline fruit. There simply wasn't enough time. Chu Feng directly sealed the fruit's medicinal effects into the depths of her flesh. This was an abnormal absorption. In the following months to a year, the medicinal effects would gradually release and allow her to slowly transform. It wouldn't be too intense and would be completed unknowingly. Where is the emissary? At this moment, a shout came from afar. Some people were approaching rapidly. An old divine king from the 9-headed bird race had come in to find the emissary from above. Before this, Chi Feng had run away because of the intense uneasiness in his heart. After he left, he reported that there might be danger in the secret realm. In the end, the old divine king from his race called for people from all walks of life, including the silver dragon race and the golden winged Yiksha race. They wanted to show off in front of the emissary. Now, they still didn't know the emissary was dead. Huh? What's going on? Some people were very sharp. They felt apprehensive when they saw the collapsed mountain peaks and the remnant blood on the ground. These people were all experts. After all, there were naturally no weaklings among those who dared to enter the Divine King's secret realm. Most of them were Divine Kings, and there were at least 20 of them. They could be considered the experts of the older generation from various races. They were famous and had extremely high statuses. Celestial venerables usually focused on cultivation and didn't have much lifespan left. Meanwhile, the powerhouses were in death seclusion all year round and rarely came out into the world. Only divine kings were more active and could already be considered high-end combat power. At the same time, these people also saw the old woman from the quasi-saint race lying on the ground as if she was a corpse at Chu Feng's feet. "Chowda, what did you do?" someone shouted. It was a silver dragon king. "No, this Chowda is very dangerous. There's the aura of a divine king." "Yes, why is there a thunderous waterfall falling on his head? Heavens, what kind of lightning tribulation is that? It's too vast." Some people cried out in alarm. The old divine king from the 9-headed race shouted, "This Chowda is strange. He has killing intent toward us. If we join forces against him, I guess the emissary has been harmed. This Chowda isn't a great saint but has a special foundation. Forget it, let's join forces and get rid of him to protect ourselves." Buzz. However, Before the old divine king from the nine-headed race could say anything more, a silver metal ring flew over from the void. It was the diamond chakram with great Tao runes lingering around it. It seemed to split time and space as it arrived in an instant. The old divine king from the nine-headed race quickly evaded, but the diamond chakram followed him like a shadow. It was like a silver lightning bolt and was too fast for him to evade. "You dare to challenge so many of us divine kings?" someone shouted from the side. However, at this moment, the old divine king from the nine-headed race also let out a blood-curdling scream. Blood splattered everywhere as he was struck by the diamond chakram in an instant. He exploded on the spot, his body and soul destroyed. Then, the diamond chakram spun and didn't return. Instead, it charged toward another divine king. Bang! 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 The divine kings at the scene were terrified because in an instant, 3 divine kings were struck in succession. In the end, they all turned into a mist of blood and died completely. Run! What realm is this? Is he still a divine king? It can't be the great divine king, right? Some people cried out. At the same time, they were dumbfounded. Wasn't that Chowda a great saint? How did he become a great divine king? Bind! Chu Feng shouted. The shiny, snow-white diamond chakram shone and rapidly enlarged. Then, it covered heaven and earth, covering all the people who were charging in all directions and trapping them inside. Then, it rapidly shrank again. A total of 18 powerhouses, most of whom were divine kings, couldn't escape. They were all tightly bound by the diamond chakram. Following a wave of Chu Feng's hand, the diamond chakram shrank to its normal size. The group of people screamed miserably. Amidst the glaring silver light and the resplendent runes of the great Tao, all of their bones were broken and tendons snapped. Then, they were torn into pieces. Their blood and bones were shattered, and they perished in body and soul. Ing Wudi was shocked. He was truly palpitating after witnessing this scene with his own eyes, and his entire body stiffened. Chu Feng had taken out the diamond chakram with a shake of his hand and directly eliminated all the divine kings. At the side, Ing Zhixian was also stunned. Since when did Chu Feng become so powerful? He intercepted and killed the martial madman's descendants, seized their fortunes, seized all the bloodline fruits, and gave them to his sister. Now, he only needed to activate a bracelet to eliminate a group of divine kings. Was this diamond chakram really going to become an ultimate weapon in the future? However, Ing Zhixian was certain that the stronger one was still Chu Feng himself. At this moment, Chu Feng was astonished. Chi Feng didn't follow them in? He had escaped another calamity. Yes, the 2 envoys stood against each other. Their decisive battle led to the collapse of this secret realm. So many people died along with them. "Let's leave it at that," said Chu Feng as he concluded this incident. He was in a hurry and was prepared to attack wantonly. He wanted to seize all the secret realms on this battlefield. He hoped to visit them all in the shortest amount of time possible. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Masters Mobile Version. Chapter 1347. Alright, this place is over. I'll send you guys to the exit. Chu Feng picked them up like a comet streaking across the sky. He was too resplendent as he quickly headed in the direction of the exit. At the same time, he controlled the diamond chakram. The snow-white bracelet shone and the runes of the great Tao lingered in the sky. It was as though a sea of stars was exploding before it pressed down with a boom. Chu Feng used the extreme energy of the great divine king and displayed the most terrifying might of the diamond chakram to forcefully blast the depths of this secret realm. This result was too terrifying. Crack! This part of the world was pierced through. The limit of the void here was originally the peak of a divine king. Now, a great divine king erupted like a blazing sun traversing across and directly pierced through this place. Rumble! Lightning flashed and thunder rolled as the diamond chakram crossed over, causing this place to collapse. Glaring light surged and boundless energy surged. This was truly the end of the world. The entire small world collapsed and was heading towards destruction. Black cracks rapidly extended as glaring energy beams swam like silver dragons. A destructive explosion occurred here. Even though Ingwudi was being carried by Chu Feng, he could see clearly and felt that this was too shocking. It was just one attack from Chu Feng, yet this secret realm was destroyed? Wasn't this a divine king's secret realm? It could withstand a great battle between divine kings. But now, it seemed that under the bombardment of the great divine king's invincible stance in the same domain, a small world was destroyed just like that. It was as easy as pulling dry weeds and smashing rotten wood without any suspense. Ingzhixian was also shocked. Was the great divine king still considered a divine king? Could it be that he had stepped into the domain of a celestial venerable? However, that shouldn't be possible. That was a heaven-grade energy that had already broken through the shackles of the mortal world. However, this attack from Chu Feng was truly too powerful. It was enough to look down on all the divine kings in the heavens. If a god blocked it, he would kill a god. Who could contend against such a tyrannical attack? Great waves surged in Ingzhixian's heart. She felt that she had never truly seen the limit of Chu Feng's potential. One attack made the mountains and rivers lose their color and the sun and moon lose their luster. It was as if the world was being changed. Behind them, the mountains and rivers collapsed and the secret realm disintegrated. It exploded continuously as energy boiled and primal chaos was struck out. It surged unceasingly as it chased after them at an extreme speed. Go to sleep and forget the truth. This is the result of two emissaries using their trump cards to fight. Chu Feng spoke as he brushed his hand over the heads of Ingzhixian and the others. He used the breathing technique of the quasi-sage race to urge his energy and display his methods to alter a portion of their soul-light memories. It was rare for Ingwudi's face to be as pale as snow, but it didn't turn black. He really wanted to remember this moment. Otherwise, if he met Great Demon Chu in the future, he would be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. He would become a laughing stock. Chu Feng, Brother Chu, I really don't want to forget everything here. I want to remember you. Please leave some traces and clues for me. Don't completely erase them, okay? Ing Xiaoxiao was on the verge of weeping. Her eyes were filled with glistening tears and unwillingness to part. They had been separated for many years, and were truly separated by yin and yang. They had finally met, but they had to part again. Would they be able to meet again after this? She wasn't sure. She was afraid. What kind of enemy would Chu Feng be facing? The weakest enemy was still an Empyrean. So much so that he would encounter the martial madman in the end. That was destined to cause the sky to collapse and the earth to cave in. They would fight until blood dripped from the firmament, and it would be very difficult for them to survive. With Chu Feng's temperament in the little yin, how could he be willing to hide? He was destined to go against the flow. No matter how strong the enemy was, he had to fight them head-on. Chu Feng, you have to take care of yourself. You must live well. Ing Xiaoxiao wept. She knew that it was useless to say anything else. He had already made his decision and nothing could be changed. Chu Feng nodded. At this moment, Ingzhixian was silent and still. She looked at Chu Feng in silence. Her eyes were deep and there was sadness and sorrow in them. In the end, she said softly, "At this moment, I seem to see everything that happened in the foreign realm. Those past and those experiences have truly surfaced. It's as if I've walked through them once more. Now, my memories are being erased once more. The sad parting of the past, I understand. Chu Feng, take care of yourself." Chu Feng glanced at her and didn't pay attention to her. Instead, he directly took action and erased some of their memories to carry out changes. "When we meet again, I hope that it will be a new beginning. If it's possible, I don't think it will be like this," Ingzhixian said in the end. Her eyes were very beautiful and bright, but they were closed in an instant. Behind Chu Feng, a path collapsed. The space was originally damaged, and all kinds of traces of the prehistoric war were left behind. It was like porcelain that was covered in cracks. Now it was completely exploding. Divine light overflowed into the heavens and law runes interweaved densely. It was too terrifying. The path of destruction was like a stormy wave that overflowed the heavens as it chased after Chu Feng. One could see the diamond chakram churning. It was snow-white and resplendent. In the aura of destruction, it wasn't damaged in the slightest. It became increasingly sparkling and translucent as it was attacked by the decrees and great Tao runes along the way. It was as if it was being tempered in such a great calamity. The runes of the world collapsing and the destructive energy were attacking it. Wasn't this a kind of baptism? At this moment, it was like the carrier of the great Tao as it bore all kinds of primitive runes. Boundless laws and energy were squeezing it, making it gradually transition from new and bright to simple and natural. It returned to its natural state and became more and more natural. At this moment, Chu Feng's body was shaking violently because it was resonating with the diamond chakram. The two of them shone with each other as they endured this indescribable rune baptism together. He knew that this secret treasure had spirituality and had his unique mark. Even if it was obtained by others, it would be difficult for them to control it. It would belong exclusively to him. This was the path that the ultimate weapon had to take. It was rich in spirituality and was branded with the imprint of a certain creature. It couldn't be erased unless it was destroyed. In the end, more than half of the small world collapsed. It was extremely terrifying. It shook the entire three-sided battlefield and made millions of evolvers from every race feel a chill. Apart from the celestial race, who could survive once they were caught in this kind of great destruction. In fact, if a celestial venerable was swept in and resisted, it would also be a big problem. Because this was the ruins of the fourth forbidden area, there was a punitive order interweaving here. That was why celestial venerables didn't dare to step into the corresponding secret realm. They can't all be dead, right? A group of divine kings went in just now. Did they engage in a bloody battle? The people from the nine-headed bird race were dumbfounded. Just now, a portion of their race's divine kings had gone in. They were the backbone of their race, but they were all destroyed inside? The people from the silver dragon race and the golden-winged yiksha race were also stunned. Their bodies went cold. They also had veteran divine kings who went in, but they were killed just like that? It wasn't worth it. Chi Feng felt a chill run down his spine. Apart from the people on the periphery, he was the only one who had escaped from the depths of the secret realm. He felt that something was wrong with Chowda. Could it be that the ominous premonition in the depths of his soul had come true? He didn't know whether he should rejoice or be afraid. Could a mere great sage cause such a disastrous outcome? He was simply a god of death. However, while his heart ached and he mourned for the famous figures of his race, he also let out a long breath. That Chowda was finally dead. He wouldn't come out, right? There were many people who had the same thoughts as him. They all had strange expressions. They were all enemies of Chu Feng, and many of them began to whisper among themselves. That Chowda, a great sage rarely seen since ancient times, actually died inside just like that? Everyone said that he was related to the first mountain, but in the end, he died young. Hee, some people laughed coldly, while others took joy in his misfortune. They were excited and excited. In a normal confrontation, they wouldn't dare to harm Chowda because they were always worried that the first mountain would retaliate. Even though there were rumors that Chowda wasn't actually a disciple of the first mountain, most people still didn't dare to act rashly. Where are the emissaries? Why haven't they come out? Their identities are incomparably important. They come from above the heavens, and if something unexpected happens, it will be a gargantuan disaster. At this time, someone cried out in alarm. Only now did they remember the safety of the two emissaries. They felt a wave of horror and a chill ran down their spines. A few people shivered inwardly. As long as they came into contact with the great sects and races above the heavens, they would feel a wave of uneasiness. This was especially true for the nine-headed bird race and others who had dealings with them before. However, no one dared to rush over now. The small world was still exploding. All kinds of incomparably glaring laws were like streaks of lightning that densely packed together. They appeared in the great cracks in the void and destroyed all living things. Finally, that place became quiet. 70 to 80% of the small world had collapsed. Only the area near the exit could be considered intact. Moreover, at this time, a few divine kings ran out with deathly pale faces. They were incomparably terrified and in an extremely sorry state. Their clothes were in tatters, and their bodies were covered in blood. They had narrowly escaped death. Chu Feng threw the Ying siblings and the others at a place not far from the secret realm's exit. He put away the diamond chakram that was dazzling with silver light and natural Taoist arts and returned to his great sage body. After adjusting his breathing for a moment, he strode out. In the outside world, there was a clamor of noise. It was extremely chaotic. The divine kings who could make it out alive could be said to have a new lease on life. They were all terrified. They were rejoicing and trembling. Where are the emissaries? They didn't come out. Something unexpected really happened. Do any of you know what happened? Someone shouted in the outside world. He was extremely anxious because he was afraid of shouldering the responsibility. He was worried that the creatures above the heavens would come down with supreme power to denounce them. I don't know. I didn't discover any traces of them, but I feel like there are people having a life and death battle in the depths of the secret realm. An earth-shattering battle broke out. We felt violent energy fluctuations. That kind of aura was too terrifying. It made us tremble uncontrollably, and our soul light was being suppressed. Someone responded with a pale face and informed them of some clues. What about Chowda? Did he survive? There were people from the nine-headed bird race, the golden-winged Yaksha race, and the silver dragon race. They were paying close attention to him. Cough. At this time, Chu Feng walked out. His head and face were covered in dirt, and he cut an extremely sorry figure. There was still a chapter after that, and it would be updated soon. Chapter 1348. Chu Feng cursed continuously, saying that there were bastards fighting indiscriminately and causing the small world to collapse. He hadn't obtained any fortunes and would have been destroyed if he hadn't been so close to the secret realm's exit. At the same time, he strongly protested that it was unfair. They had agreed to let him enter the secret realm and search for fortunes, but now a group of people had entered almost at the same time as him. What advantage did he have? Among Chu Feng's enemies, the nine-headed bird race and the golden-winged Yaksha race were all livid. So many of their people had died, but Chowda was still alive and kicking? They wanted to curse out loud. Was there any justice in the world? Wasn't he just a saint? Even if he was a great saint, his realm was still there. He should have been killed after entering, but he was still alive. It was a pity and a pity. Everyone suspected that Chowda had a secret treasure on him, a special item bestowed upon him by the First Mountain. Otherwise, he would have been dead for sure. However, Chu Feng ignored them and moved quickly to another secret realm. There were still 2 secret realms that belonged to him, and he wanted to explore them as soon as possible in case something unexpected happened. Regretfully, the next 2 secret realms were both dead secret realms. They were completely empty without any natural luck, making him feel rather regretful. He had wasted 2 quotas for nothing. I'm sorry, but I have to join the fight for the unowned secret realms, Chu Feng said to himself, but he was actually just putting on an act. Then, he decisively rushed into the saint-level secret realm to join the fight. After Chu Feng entered, the outside world was in chaos. Everyone was sure that the 2 envoys were dead, and some of the golden-winged Yaksha and nine-headed bird race's divine kings had also perished. The losses were not small. Most importantly, a long whistle came from the distance after a while. There were more than one old man with messy hair approaching. They were incomparably domineering, and their attacks caused the evolvers of various races to vomit blood and be sent flying. Where are the descendants of my race? Why has their life aura disappeared? People from the divine race had arrived. Apart from the powerful old divine kings, there were also celestial venerable level beasts with monstrous killing intent. They were one of the terrifying beings guarding the mountain gate. If not for the protection of the celestial venerables on the battlefield, such attacks would have killed many people. Get out of the way! Where are the descendants of my race? Did they die in the secret realm? Who did it? Immediately, someone came forward and explained to them in secret. Chu Feng moved very quickly. He passed through several secret realms in one go and obtained some great medicines. However, his overall harvest was not that great. These places had all been visited by others in advance. In addition, true natural luck couldn't be that much. It was difficult for it to be preserved until the present age. This time, he rushed out and wanted to break into another secret realm that all races could enter to fight for it. Who is Chowda? Crawl over here. One of the emissary's clansmen shouted. They were told that the death of the emissary might be related to Chowda. However, it was too late. Chu Feng had already entered. You dare to disobey the orders of the heavens? A divine king with a head full of fluttering hair roared. His eyes were cold. Don't think that we don't know what's going on with the first mountain. Whether or not their successor is alive or dead, they don't have the ability to protect him. The only thing that could possibly trigger the taboo power from several epochs ago is offending the first mountain. Anything else is of no concern. Another old man shouted. However, Chu Feng didn't pay attention to them. He just entered and disappeared without a trace. Go in and capture him. Bring that Chowda out. What great sage! In this era where the heavens are dyed in blood and all worlds are trembling, what do great sages count for? Those at the deity realm are just ants. The so-called heavenly geniuses and outstanding talents that haven't grown up are nothing more than slaves to be sold to the true most powerful races of the heavens as servants and concubines. This is the best era, but also the most terrifying era. All order will be rewritten. Those who obey the will of the heavens will live, and those who go against it will die. Another person said in a low voice. He was full of confidence. Just now, my god race found a letter left behind by an ancestor from several epochs ago. Perhaps my race came from the heavens, and there is a true ancestral soul on it. This is beyond our expectations. Now, my race's old ancestor sensed an indescribable fluctuation on the path he was guarding. A special message was passed down. In this era, our entire race might be able to ascend. Now we are here to recruit heroic talent. Who is willing to pledge allegiance to our race? One day we will ascend to the heavens together. The scene was deathly silent. Many people were indescribably shaken. What did they just hear? At the same time, they were also incomparably silent. The geniuses of various races and the outstanding talents of various worlds had joined those supreme races that could transcend the heavens to fight. Could it be that they could only become servants, maids, and concubines? Their status was too low. What did the heroic talents and heavenly geniuses become? It was too lamentable. What era was this? It made people's hearts feel heavy. In this chaotic world, only by truly rising up and fighting for a bloody world, looking down on the heavens, could one live with dignity. Many people felt a sense of urgency and anxiety. In this kind of environment, all races needed supreme experts to protect their own race. At this time, a supreme king-level entity from the god race that came from the heavens moved. He actually wanted to break into the small secret realm and capture Chu Feng alive. Even though Chu Feng was in the secret realm, he still heard the order. He sneered and coldly said, "Those who dare to come in should all die." What god race? What peak races of the heavens? Regardless of how great their backgrounds were, if they dared offend him, Chu Feng would still kill them without hesitation. He was going to wipe them all out in a single strike. Right at this time, a honglong sounded. Intense collapsing sounds could be heard from the battlefield. Metal radiance shone brilliantly. A terrifying vicious spirit that looked like it was cast from Mother Gold appeared. It actually targeted heavenly deity Yushang. He was blasted until he coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. His body was covered in cracks as he flew outward. His body was already old and weak to begin with, and now, he was even more seriously injured. You aren't being honest. Did you pass on your clan's imprints to someone else? The one who came shouted. Heavenly deity Yushang's eyes felt like they were going to split apart. The one who killed his daughter, killed his 2 sons, and killed his grandson's clan's people finally appeared again, shedding all pretense of cordiality and coming here. How powerful was his bloodline! It was once the focus of the world, and was surrounded by resplendent halos. But later on it declined. In order to protect the ultimate cauldron's secret, the clan's descendants were actually harmed. All of them withered away, and were about to be exterminated. Fortunately, he heard the secret Chu Feng told him. He suspected that he had a descendant in the Little Yin realm. That woman called Yao Yao had the blood of his clan flowing in her body. He didn't cut off his descendants. This was the best consolation before he passed away in meditation. This was also heavenly deity Yushang's only hope for survival. He wanted to see his descendant Yao Yao. Mother Gold grew in her body and she's using it as a weapon? Heavenly deity Yushang's old eyes were turbid. Then, they turned red as he looked at the person who came. He was incomparably resentful. This was because he had heard that his descendant, Yao Yao's grandfather, had been implanted with Mother Gold and had special metal chains growing in his body. The people who attacked were incomparably malicious. Now they had appeared once again. At this time, Chu Feng also felt the restlessness outside. He couldn't help but say after hearing these voices, "The imprints are with me. Those who aren't afraid of death or being destroyed by the first mountain, get your asses in here. I'll slaughter all of you." Chapter 1349. Fury surged in Chu Feng's heart. It wasn't because of the 9-headed bird race or the golden-winged Yiksha race from the Yang realm, but because of the other 2 powers. The emissary clan from above had arrived. They had a powerful background, and even the beasts guarding the mountain gate were at the celestial venerable level. Their aura had already been transmitted into the secret realm. Of course, this still wasn't what made him the most shocked and furious. Even though the family that came from above the heavens was extremely arrogant and domineering, specifically ordering him to obey their orders and listen to their summons, but that was all there was to it. He even killed people, even killed 2 emissaries, so what else was there to care about? What made his emotions fluctuate and his blood boil was the appearance of that terrifying, mysterious, powerful, and demonic clan. They had once caused the Yao Yao clan to suffer incomparably miserably. In the Yang realm, he wouldn't be here without Yao Yao. On Earth, Yao Yao protected him and gave him time to grow. At the very last moment in the abyss, Yao Yao's body had disintegrated to the point where only his blood and soul were left, as well as the stone jar, supported them with both hands and sent them out. She herself fell into the depths of the abyss's darkness and never came out again. Perhaps, at that moment, if Yao Yao had left the last of her power to herself, she would have been able to live and come out on her own. But at that moment she saved Chu Feng and sent him out, but she never appeared again. Chu Feng's heart ached every time he thought of this. It was as if he was being grabbed. As a result, he cared about everything related to Yao Yao. He wanted to avenge her and always stand on the same side as her. Today, he didn't have that kind of power. If he was strong enough, he would definitely return to the lesser Yin realm and enter the abyss again. He would find Yao Yao regardless of whether she was dead or alive. His heart trembled. At the same time, he hoped and craved for a miracle. He hoped that Yao Yao could appear in the world again and come back. Today, at this moment, he had personally heard someone say such words. That was the old enemy of the Yao Yao bloodline, the main culprit who had caused their clan to suffer incomparably miserably. They had actually appeared. His anger blossomed as he felt the same way and wanted to attack. From Elder Yushang to Yao Yao, this bloodline was too miserable. Just because of that imprint, Emperor Yushang's 2 sons, 1 daughter, as well as his grandson, all died tragically. They were all originally world-shocking geniuses who were ranked at the top of their respective cultivation realms, but in the end, they ended up in such a miserable state. Later on, this clan only had a single posthumous child left. He was imprisoned by the main culprit's clan, and this bloodline continued to reproduce. However, it was still extremely pitiful, incomparably bleak. In the end, the limited bloodlines were all taken for experiment. Some died and some were crippled. In the end, Yao Yao's grandfather was the only one left. However, he suffered from incomparably vicious methods and became the experimental subject of some big shot. A special mother of gold was planted in his body, and in the later stages, he was destined to lose his nature and self, just like a walking corpse. How cruel it was! In order to force Elder Yushang to hand over the clue of the imprint related to the myriad chi cauldron, the clan of the prime culprits had resorted to every possible means. They directly ended Elder Yushang's line of descent. Several of his stunning children and descendants withered and died. It was just too lamentable. There was no need to think too much. Elder Yushang's ancestor definitely had a great background. To be able to guard that myriad chi cauldron and to be able to grasp the only clue, it could be said that he had an unimaginable bloodline. It was only because of some matters that their inheritance was broken. An accident occurred and they gradually declined. That was why they were targeted by others and became pitiful prey. According to what Elder Yushang said, their clan actually still had a few branches, but they had all gone on expeditions. If they were still in the Yang realm and had returned in this era, how could they be bullied and humiliated to this extent, to the point where their clan was almost completely exterminated? Now, Elder Yushang was about to die and didn't have many months left to live. Meanwhile, Yao Yao had fallen into the abyss forever. Both of them were greatly indebted to Chu Feng. How could Chu Feng's heart be at ease now that they had fallen to such a state? In particular, the people from the main culprit's clan had come in the outside world. They had actually injured Elder Yushang, causing him to cough up large mouthfuls of blood. His limited few months of life might be even more unbearable, and he wouldn't be able to live for more than a few days. When Chu Feng turned around and came back, he stood at the entrance of the secret realm. His eyes were somewhat red, and he was seething with anger. He wished he could immediately get rid of the main culprit's clan. He wanted to vent his anger on Elder Yushang and take revenge for Yao Yao's bloodline. Cough! In the outside world, Elder Yushang's face was like golden paper. There was no color, and then it became increasingly waxy yellow. This was a sign that his life was declining and his body was withering. That attack had seriously injured him, and he couldn't hold on any longer. To think that my clan illuminated the heavens. Back then, our ancestor overlooked the world and was famous for transcending the myriad realms. In the end, his descendant was bullied and humiliated. I've let down my ancestor, and I've let down my ancestor's unrivaled reputation. I'm a sinner. Yushang's voice wasn't loud, and it was very weak. He was resentful and humiliated from the bottom of his heart. His ancestor had left behind a cauldron, and his power had shaken all realms. However, his bloodline was about to be severed and declined to this state. It was related to the disappearance of a certain key scripture in the inheritance, and it was also related to the unexpected calamity that his clan had encountered. In the distance, Chu Feng's blood was surging, and his eyes were standing up. He saw Elder Yushang in his later years with white hair and turbid eyes. He felt more and more pity for him and felt indignant on his behalf. He realized that Yushang's ancestor should be one of the past heavenly emperors. He saw the big black dog's master's corpse on the ruined bell, and now, he sensed another clan's ups and downs. This type of rise and fall made his heart resonate with it, his heart grieving as well. I am right here. Whoever wants the imprint can take it away, come, Chu Feng shouted. He was a bit scared, worried that the creature whose entire body was covered in golden luster would act out and take action against Elder Yushang. If that happened, he would go crazy. However, that creature whose entire body was covered in golden luster didn't plan to take action. From their perspective, Yushang was the only living person of that bloodline. They needed his blood, needed his life. Otherwise, how could they search for that emperor artifact in the mysterious and magnificent mountains and rivers? That person spoke, voice as cold as the metal outer armor on his body. Moreover, it carried a sneer of mockery. The legends of the past, who in this world still believes them? Many people felt that whether or not that person really existed was a different matter. Of course, my clan knows that he had existed before. However, what about the clues within him? What about everything he left behind? Even the Emperor artifact has already been buried. We are doing this with good intentions, wishing to help you all find that thing, make the source energy split the heavens again, make it reappear. That way, that person's glory will also be remembered by others. When Elder Yushang heard these words, his body trembled, feeling anger, but also helpless. He felt more and more sorrow. His ancestor was so dazzling and unmatched, a drop of blood able to pierce through endless ages, yet now, they couldn't continue that type of glory. Anger harms the body. You should live well, we still need you. This can also be considered the last use of trash. Your blood, your flesh, they all still have some use, they are all sacrifices. Without you, how are we going to enter the mysterious mountains and rivers? How are we going to obtain the source energy? That person was laughing. The ice-cold metal covered his true body, making him appear more and more calm and cold, ridiculing Elder Yushang, mercilessly attacking and ridiculing him. Then, he added, don't even think about killing yourself. Before you die, we will collect your blood. Apart from this, my clan also has large amounts of the blood of your children and grandchildren, still preserved after all these years. And we even preserved their heads, their hearts, their ruined bodies. Do you want to take a look? Elder Yushang's eyes felt like they were going to split apart, his muddy old eyes completely red. His body trembled, almost about to fall onto the ground. His heart was in great pain, feeling incomparably terrible. His own 2 sons and a daughter back then, just how outstanding were they, just how extraordinary were they? Back then, their family was together, full of joy and laughter, familial love. However, in the end, they were so miserable. Now, he heard these words. How could he endure it? Chu Feng was also about to explode. When he heard these words, he felt an incomparable urge to kill. On the 3 sides of the battlefield, many people were watching. It was dead silent, all of them extremely shaken, indescribable thoughts running through their minds. They all realized some things, looking at Yushang, and then at that creature wrapped in mother gold. A few of the most powerful evolved beings, some heavenly deities already realized who the one who came was. Using mother gold as armor, this clan was too terrifying in history. They had disappeared from the Yang realm for endless years, already rarely appearing in the world, yet today, they actually made an appearance like this. What did this mean? They had confidence inwardly, everything was within their clan's control. A clan that competed against Celestial Emperor. The emissary clans in the heavens above were all shocked, coming to this conclusion, guessing at which power it was that made an appearance. There were some clans, some families, not only did they continue for several great eras, they even competed against Celestial Emperor in the past, even though they were defeated. Some of them survived, moreover leaving for the other realms, licking their wounds outside the endless realms. In the end, they returned one day. That person is extremely strong, but so what? Where is he? My clan's most powerful unmatched ancestor has revived, heh heh ha ha. That person whose entire body was covered in mother gold was laughing, unrestrained and domineering, not hiding anything. What? Someone from the creatures in the heavens above cried out in alarm, inwardly shaken. Is he in the Yang realm? If he isn't, then stop competing. Get over here, I'm going to fuck you to death. Chu Feng spoke, feeling extreme hatred towards this clan. He felt like if he continued listening, forget about heavenly deity Yushang, even he wouldn't be able to take it. He felt like he could understand Elder Yushang's current emotions. Even his heart was bleeding, it was definitely incomparably unbearable. He wanted to lead this clan's people into the small world, find a way to kill them. That was why Chu Feng's words were extremely crude, precisely wishing to anger this person and make him come in. There wasn't much to say right now, only by killing this person could he temporarily vent a breath of resentment for Elder Yushang. And who do you think you are, actually receiving Yushang's favor? Oh great sage, you are formidable, but it is a pity that you were born in the wrong era, in this era. That person sneered and continued, in this era, there won't be a chance for you to shine. You won't even be able to grow to the divine king or heavenly deity realm. I reckon you will be slapped into mud and stepped on to become a puddle of stinky blood, don't you think so? With a faint smile on his face, he carelessly and calmly examined Chu Feng. Then, he waved at him and said, There are no accidents. You're going to die soon. Why don't you come over and pledge your allegiance to us? We'll give you a chance to live and grow. I had #yen. Chu Feng replied with a simple sentence. He rarely hated someone so much. He felt that there was no use reasoning with this kind of clan, only the most direct greeting was worthy of them. That person's expression was cold as he said, Fine, then we will take you down first, the imprint needs to return to the right person. Of course, you and Yushang will need to cooperate. I feel that it is best if you don't self-destruct, don't kill yourself, otherwise Yushang's situation won't be good. Chu Feng said coldly, Your grandfather is right here, waiting for you. If you have the guts, then come in, I will wipe out all of you. Heh, a declining family, what else can there be? That person won't be coming back, haha, laughable and lamentable, the glory of the past. That person's body erupted with golden radiance, laughing in a carefree manner. However, right at this time, a strand of source energy moved through heaven and earth. It continuously rumbled, the great Tao rumbling, intimidating the heavens. Emperor, who can be humiliated? At this time, as heaven and earth trembled, accompanied by tremendous rumbling sounds, this entire sky dome began to tremble, as if it was going to fall. At this moment, everyone was trembling, all of them wishing to kneel down, prostrate themselves in worship. Elder Yushang's turbid eyes, hot tears immediately tumbled down. In the past, just how brilliant was their clan? Back then, it was originally like this. Who could be humiliated? Who dared to humiliate them? Now, when he saw that strand of source energy, as well as the great Tao rumbling and shaking, Yushang really wanted to cry, want to roar towards the heavens. He was trembling all over, feeling like he was going to be killed by someone. He didn't want to always ask for leave, but recently, his writing really wasn't smooth enough, so he stopped. The later stages of the book weren't easy to write, but during these few days, I've been going from the beginning to the end, so there shouldn't be any problems. From here on out, just watch my performance, then you all can decide whether or not you want to take action against me. Go tremble all over. Cry. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Master Mobile Version Website. M. Chapter 1350. One could see that Yushang's body was releasing a strange radiance. A special type of blood was surging within his body, throbbing, resonating with the great Tao in the heavens, resonating with the laws of the entire world of the living, making all things in the world tremble. Everyone, including the top experts and some heavenly deities, felt a wave of palpitation originating from their souls, their faces becoming as pale as snow. On this grand battlefield, countless people couldn't help but directly kneel down. Who was speaking? Who was shouting and asking? Was it someone from Yushang's clan? Everyone was alarmed. At the same time, they were even more suspicious. Did that legendary person return, reappearing in this world? At this moment, forget about the people on the battlefield, even the clans in the distance and the great sects of other provinces sensed it. It was because heaven and earth were rumbling, a strand of source energy traversing the heavens. It was too shocking. Could it be that the legend has returned? That person is still there? Did he appear again? This, heavens, I just knew that it wasn't a rumor. The one who dared to blast through the heavens back then is still here. The legend who dared to make the heavens bleed has returned. In a few famous mountains and great rivers, there were peerless old monsters that revived. It was unknown how many years they had lived for, some of them not belonging to this great era. They sensed the changes in heaven and earth, the rumbling and trembling of the great Tao. Even they themselves were trembling, many of them muttering to themselves. This was an incomparably shocking scene, making many people in the world of the living convulse, feeling disbelief. Heaven and earth were moving, the heavens about to collapse. There was a type of strange fiery light burning, revolving around that strand of source energy, simply going to suppress all enemies in the world. At this time, the creature in gold armor on the battlefield had the most extreme reaction. He was simply horrified. How could this type of thing happen? Just now, he was still mocking and mocking, saying that Yushang's bloodline had declined, that their flesh and blood could only be sacrificed, that trash could be recycled. Who would still acknowledge that so-called legendary person? Who would still remember? But now, a shout almost shook his courage to the point of exploding. Right now, his mouth was full of blood, his entire body covered in cracks. Even that gold armor couldn't defend against it. How terrifying of a matter was this? Moreover, one had to understand that he was a heavenly deity. How could it be like this? He was actually about to explode from the words of another, almost breaking apart. What kind of creature was this? He didn't even truly take action against him. Who are you? You can't be him. Even his voice was trembling. One could imagine just how shocked he was inside. He was asking himself, how could it be that person from back then? How could he appear in the present world? Could it be that those existences that stood towering above the eras and stood at the absolute peak of history really couldn't be mentioned? Otherwise it would appear. But didn't he disappear? It could even be said that he had fallen into a deep slumber and could not possibly return in this era. How could he suddenly appear like this? Some people noticed the details, including Chu Feng, because he saw that the blood mist rising from Yushang's body was too special and too majestic. This did not match the frail old man. At this moment, Yushang himself felt that something was off as well. In an instant, he seemed to have understood, and then hot tears filled his eyes. He stretched out his trembling hand as if he wanted to touch the heavens and kowtow. Then, he looked at his own body and seriously felt it. That's right, this kind of feeling couldn't be wrong. The strange blood in his body was boiling and burning. It was in sync with the pulse of the great Tao in the sky and resonated with the wisp of the source Qi. In a trance, Yushang realized that the pulse of the heaven and earth and all the strange phenomena were related to the awakening of his strange blood. In the distance, Chu Feng's fiery eyes naturally saw everything clearly. He was many times sharper than most people. Last time, he heard Yushang say that the ancestral blood of this race was special. Unfortunately, after reproducing to this era, only a few of their descendants could awaken and give birth to this ancestral blood. Among them, Yao Yao had awakened this innate ancestral blood. Because of this, she was once the number one under the starry skies. She had truly done it. She was peerless among her peers. Even the Tao body of the Yang realm's supremely martial heavenly lord was killed by her after he suppressed his realm and entered the lesser Yin realm. This was so frightening and shocking that no one would believe it. After all, he was once a celestial lord. No matter how he suppressed his cultivation, his insight, experience, and cultivation were all there. But Yao Yao had done it. Now, celestial Lord Yushang's blood had also awakened. However, it was in the midst of burning, which led to such an exaggerated and terrifying heaven and earth phenomenon. Ancestor, is that you? Living in our blood, have you manifested in the Yang realm today? Yushang cried out. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole world was shaken. It was as if a hurricane had swept through the Yang realm and swept through every province. The vast sea swayed the blue sky, and the vast snowfall in the extreme north went against the firmament. This was too shocking. Many people were scared silly. For example, the emissary race from above felt their blood run cold. Could it be that the legend is true? Some existences that are powerful enough won't perish. They can live in the blood of their descendants. Descendants are the continuation of their lives. It's not just talk. Some people really do pass down their life imprints, essence fragments, and other such things. They let the blood of their descendants flow through their blood, hoping that one day they will be able to return and reappear. In the famous mountains and great rivers of the Yang realm, a prehistoric giant had awakened and said this with incomparably deep eyes. In reality, this was indeed a bit close to the truth. In various areas of the Yang realm, strand after strand of purple energy pervaded the air and enveloped the sky. Streak after streak of scarlet multicolored light blossomed. That was the aura of nobility and iron-blooded slaughter of the past. It was accompanied by a strand of source energy as it traversed the heavens and earth. It was as if it wanted to sever the world. Endless rumbling sounds rang out and the whole world trembled. At this time, many people realized what had happened. A strand of Yushang's ancestors had awakened in his blood and was stimulated? Was this forced by the main culprit's clan? Did it make the imprint flowing in the blood of the unmatched emperor feel it and thus become angry? For a moment everyone was shivering. It was rumored that such an existence dared to fight through the ages, dared to kill to the end of the darkness, and dared to cross the emperor burial pit. If he was angry, who could endure it? Yushang's aged body was now perfectly straight. He was paying respect to his ancestor. Tears streamed down his old face. He felt that he had let down the prestige of this bloodline and let his ancestor down. However, he was also incomparably excited. Could he speak with his ancestor across space and resonate with this world? I don't believe it. I don't think that person will return like this. The creature dressed in golden armor revealed a pair of sinister eyes at this time. He was unwilling, feeling fear and terror, his heart full of resentment. Blood flowed from all 7 apertures of his body, his entire body swaying, about to completely explode. At this time, he unwillingly produced an artifact, pointing it towards the sky, about to resist. Yushang raised his head and looked towards the heavens. The strange blood within his body surged, forming a dragon-shaped blood pillar. Then, it turned into a great Tao storm, engulfing the heavens above and earth below. The sun and moon lost color, heaven and earth sinking, displaying his ancestors' unmatched might. He knew that this wasn't his own power, but rather that his ancestor was reviving. Chu Feng also understood. Today, Elder Yushang was suppressed to the extreme. Not only was he humiliated again and again, he was even brought up that after his 2 sons and 1 daughter were tortured to death, their heads and corpses still preserved for him to see. Just how tragic of a life was this? Elder Yushang was stimulated to the extreme. This might very well have caused his bloodline to mutate, from this activating certain factors flowing through his blood, allowing that unmatched creature to temporarily appear. You are correct, I am indeed not him. If I am the celestial emperor, a single ray of light will sweep across the everlasting. Even if your clan hides outside the heavens, it will still be difficult for you to continue existing, all of you going extinct. In the heavens above, someone spoke, the voice grand and powerful, ringing through the provinces, shaking up the world. Who are you? I am his third grandson, as well as Yu Shang's ancestor. Today, a small fragment of my life imprint was activated, allowing me to sense his emotions. In the sky that will spoke. He was deducing, wishing to uncover the main branch of the main culprit, wishing to unleash a heaven-shocking strike, obliterate everything. Everyone was stupefied, at the same time incomparably shocked. This type of aura, all of heaven and earth's Tao were resonating, all of them trembling in response. None of them were that legendary person, but rather just a grandson? Moreover, the most crucial thing was that what revived in Yu Shang's body was only a damaged life imprint, too far from a true life body, yet it still possessed this type of power? This was simply unimaginable, leaving no one daring to believe it. A small fragment of his third grandson's imprint was already like this. If his original body returned, then that was simply unimaginable. At the same time, everyone felt a chill run from head to toe, realizing just how cruel the battle in outer space was. After all, that person even disappeared, temporarily unable to return. Just how powerful was his enemy? It's not him, haha, it's good that it's not him. I have confidence now. That person in golden armor actually laughed loudly like this, as if he was incomparably moved, as if he crossed the endless darkness, seeing the light, no longer feeling any fear. He held a special artifact in his hands, a mirror that illuminated the heavens. This wasn't an attack, but rather a type of signal. Then, everyone felt a great pressure, becoming incomparably nervous, their minds about to collapse. In the horizon, an elder flew out from 3 different directions. They formed a 3-legged cauldron shape, activating all of their blood energy, activating a magical decree and a command sword. Both of them were resplendent with purple light, surging like a sea of lightning, as if world-destroying energy was pouring into the heavens. I already said that our ancestor is still alive. Back then, he dared to compete with the Emperor, so we contacted him from outer space. After he revived, he crossed endless time and space, sending over a decree and command sword, allowing us to control the rise and fall of the world of the living. Now activate them. The creature in golden armor shouted loudly. This was precisely the reason why he felt no fear after hurrying here today, not fearing the other clan's eyes turning red. It was because there was the decree and command sword of the ancestor who had competed with the Emperor, crossing time and space to suppress all enemies for this clan. Is that so? Are you sure that it is your ancestor who is still alive, bestowing you all with the decree and command sword? Today, I will use a strand of source energy to end everything. That voice erupted in the heavens, sounding like heavenly tribulation, exploding through the world of the living. Honglong. In reality, there was a limit to the revival of this imprint. After all, it was only a small imprint and not a true life form, so it could only launch a single attack. Originally, he wanted to find the main culprit. But now, he saw that command sword, that decree, and changed his mind. It was because he sensed a coordinate imprint on it. It was left behind by a certain terrifying creature, wanting to use it as a guide to descend into the world of the living one day. He had to sweep through and destroy this coordinate imprint. It was because he suspected that the creature that was about to descend had other origins. Boom! In the sky, a strand of source energy descended, sweeping through everything. Meanwhile, that command sword and decree revolved around the heavens, extremely majestic. Soon after, both sides encountered each other, and then they actually fell into an indescribable space-time, collapsing into an unimaginable cosmic space. The people in the outside world could only see a projection. Boom! It was like the Big Bang of the universe, the extreme point blossoming. In a split second, myriad Tao collapsed, the heavens bled, and endless natural laws wailed as they approached their end. It was faintly discernible, as if the great battle from countless years ago had appeared because of this collision. In a daze, everyone seemed to have seen a copper coffin cross the bleeding heavens. They saw bells and cauldrons ring in unison, white clothes fluttering about as they ascended into the sky. In the end, everything became quiet. That decree was pierced through and burned into ashes. That command sword was broken, turning into iron shavings, losing all of its essence. As for that strand of source energy, it flowed out, returning to the real world, entering the magnificent mountains and rivers. In 3 different directions, 3 elders had disheveled hair, blood flowing out from their 7 apertures. They didn't participate in the battle, and just now, they only worked together to activate that decree and command sword. However, now they were all withering up and then exploding. The heavenly deity in golden armor felt everything before his eyes go dark. Those 3 elders were all figures of the same generation as his great-uncles, living fossils of the clan, yet they died miserably just like that. I didn't die, I'm still in this world, I'm still alive. What else does your bloodline have? The creature in golden armor was a bit crazy, but in reality, he was scared. He was worried about his own fate. How could that attack just now have missed him? How lamentable, your fate has already been decided. A cold voice sounded. The rumbling heavens gradually calmed down. Yushang's ancestor could only launch one attack, and then he slowly disappeared. Someone in the famous mountains and great rivers frowned, saying, "Before great figures' life imprints disappear, they can see a corner of the future." At this time, the 3 sides entered a short period of silence. However, the silence was quickly broken. "Haha, you disappeared, you can only launch one attack like this. I will now kill your descendant, Yu Shang." That creature in golden armor suddenly laughed crazily. He was still scared. However, in the end, for some reason, his entire body actually trembled, kneeling down in Yushang's direction. He couldn't control himself at all. How could it end in such a hurry? "Everyone, look at the books I wrote before, saying that it was the later stages, but in reality, it took quite a long time. This book definitely has to be carefully written until everything is complete. The Chu people don't even have children, and the true curtain has only just opened. There are some things that I want to write that haven't been revealed yet, so don't worry. Please remember this book's domain name. 3rd Sect Leader Mobile Reading Site, M. Chapter 1351. The gold-armored entity knelt on the ground. His earlier tyranny was gone. His body was trembling, his hair was disheveled, and there was fear in his eyes. Everyone was startled and deeply astonished. He was just being brash just now, so why was he kneeling on the ground all of a sudden? He was kowtowing to the person he thought was going to be used as trash. What was the meaning of this? Then, people turned to look at Yushang. His state was too special. There was a special blood energy rising around him and wrapping him within. His originally pale face had become rosy, and there was a tendency for him to have white hair and a youthful complexion. Was he undergoing nirvana? Was he going to complete a transformation? Many people gasped. Those who understood him knew that Yushang had long since reached his later years and didn't have many months left to live. His blood energy had dried up, and his body had deteriorated. At his level, his fighting strength had declined sharply and there wasn't much left. Otherwise, how could he have been beaten by the gold-armored entity to the point of spitting out large mouthfuls of blood without being able to retaliate? His body was simply too terrible. However, some people could see that there was a problem with Yushang's transformation. It wasn't like a normal evolution because he hadn't broken through his body's shackles. It was just that the mutant blood in his body was boiling and interweaving with the laws to form a certain ancestral order pattern. It supported his body and made him even stronger. At the same time, the boiling mutant blood and the awakening of his special bloodline naturally restrained the person in front of him under the support of this order pattern. "Ancestor, Are you giving me a chance because I'm too humiliated? Yushang muttered to himself. That was because he had been too sullen not long ago. He was almost killed by someone. He was the descendant of Celestial Emperor, yet he was being ridiculed in front of everyone for being used as trash. At that moment, his body was trembling. If it weren't for his worries, he really would have self-destructed. He wanted to live on. He wanted to see the only descendant of his bloodline who might still be alive, Yao Yao. He had lost all his heirs and was killed by the clan that hated Celestial Emperor's bloodline. Ancestor, thank you, Yushang whispered. He knew what was going on. The resurrected imprint in his blood gave him everything. It allowed him to release the Celestial Lord domain to restrain the person in front of him and suppress his enemy to the point of trembling. Especially at this moment, the ancestor who had passed away emitted the last ripple, cleansing Yushang's heart, causing his dried-up blood to surge and boil. Back then, our race was invincible. Who dared to humiliate the Empress? How dare the descendant of a creature that failed to compete with the Emperor threaten us? Kill! Yushang let out a low roar as the flames around him surged to the sky. He stepped forward, and a golden divine lotus of the great path appeared beneath his feet. With each step, an illusion appeared. It was as if he was crossing the sea of stars. When his foot landed, countless stars shone in the sky. This was the power of Yushang in his prime, the power of a peak heavenly venerable. The man in the gold armor, was extremely unwilling. He wanted to stand up, because he felt humiliated, almost coughing up blood. He actually knelt down, his body trembling from the pressure. Before this, he had made Yushang bleed from every orifice of his body. He was no opponent of Yushang. But now, he was sent flying. As Yushang's foot landed, the mother of gold armor on his body caved in, forming a large hole. This creature spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with purple energy. He flew out and heavily smashed into the ground. Everyone was shocked. Regardless of how strong they were, they all rapidly retreated. This was a battle between heavenly venerables. If it truly erupted, many people would be crushed into a bloody paste and turned into ashes. They would all die. You dare humiliate me, a race that was once raised in captivity by my race. You old fart. This creature roared in anger. These were his heartfelt words. He felt too angry. Even a younger heavenly venerable, whose blood energy was almost completely exhausted after being trampled on by him, could make a move against him now? When Yushang heard this, his originally calm face flushed red again. Was this the inner thoughts of his enemy? When he thought about it carefully, his race had already been severed. Some of his descendants had been raised in captivity to be experimented on, while he was like a soulless puppet that had survived until now. It really was as the other party said. In that instant, heavenly venerable Yushang's hair stood up in anger. Energy radiance erupted, almost bursting apart this world. Yuan Ling roared in anger. The mother of gold armor on his body shone. He wanted to resist and kill heavenly venerable Yushang instead. However, the other party's special blood energy and the expansion of the strange heavenly venerable domain made Yuan Ling unable to raise his head. He couldn't endure it. Yushang sent Yuan Ling flying with a single kick. Then, he chased after Yuan Ling and stomped several times, almost making the other party explode on the spot. At this moment, Yushang towered in midair. His entire being's essence energy was different. It could be said that he was glowing with health and vigor. The humiliation he suffered seemed to have been mostly scattered. Yuan Ling's mouth was full of bloody suds. The mother of gold armor on his body shone and released Clipchamp sounds. Then, it erupted with heaven-reaching silver radiance, restoring the caved-in armor to its original state. He roared and his pupils released a strange radiance. He used a secret technique. This was a spiritual attack, and he wanted to cut down Yushang's soul light. However, this was ineffective. The purple sword core that was derived from his spiritual attack began to burn when it was still some distance away from Yushang. Then, it exploded. Yuan Ling released a muffled groan. He couldn't help but fall back. Blood was dripping from the space between his brows. His spirit was corroded, and his head felt like it was splitting. So, Yushang seemed to have returned to his youth. Essence energy surged around his body, and there was a rich vitality. He teleported in front of Yuan Ling and smashed out with his fist. The heaven and earth distorted, and the entire firmament was compressed until it was deformed. One could see that he seemed to be carrying a world with him as he smashed down. Yuan Ling was startled and furious. He had already exhausted all of his power, so why couldn't he break free from this kind of suppression? He simply couldn't break free from this state. His entire body trembled. Even if he exhausted all of his energy to resist, his body was still trembling. His soul was still in fear. He refused to accept this, and this wasn't his true nature. However, his body betrayed him. It was as if he had encountered his natural enemy and was being suppressed. In a split second, it was as if he could hear his own blood crying out. He became even more terrified. In that split second, he felt as if he had experienced the state of mind of his clan's founding ancestor. Back then, when he competed with the Emperor, he was defeated too miserably. His conviction was smashed, and he lost his confidence. He lay dormant for tens of thousands of years, but he still couldn't walk out of the shadow. "Ah!" he screamed. However, what could he change? That fist smashed into his body, making his chest cave in. The bones within his body ruptured, and the mother gold armor caved in. The damage to his body was too great. He continuously coughed out blood as his body flew outward. He wanted to escape, but Yushang's blood energy and the special Empyrean domain were like a magnet that sucked in an iron nail, binding him in place. He actually couldn't escape even if he wanted to. Hong! Yushang chased after him. Thunder and lightning appeared behind him, interweaving together. It was as if he had grown a pair of wings of light. They carried order symbols as they blasted outwards. "Ah!" Yuan Ling screamed miserably. He was struck until he tumbled about in the sky. The Empyrean energy that surged out made the sky dome grow dim, as if it was going to explode. However, all of this energy was absorbed by Yushang's domain. It couldn't truly disperse, and it was confined in the sky. "Kill! You trash old thing! You originally didn't have much fighting strength and should have entered the grave, yet you actually had the last radiance of a setting sun and dared to humiliate me." Yuan Ling's eyes were red from the slaughter. His spirit fluctuated violently, and he felt as if he was going to go crazy. He truly couldn't endure this kind of humiliation. However, no matter how much he roared and counterattacked, in the end, he was still sent flying. The bones in his body crackled incessantly, and it was unknown just how many of them were broken. In the end, Yushang stomped on this person with one foot. His entire body shone like a human-shaped bolt of lightning, erupting with a terrifying aura. Densely packed order symbols blasted towards Yuan Ling through the sole of his foot. "Ah, what are you doing?" Yuan Ling cried out in horror. Yushang didn't kill him, but he was cutting his Tao bones, annihilating the order soul light within his body, and depriving him of the source of the great Tao. "Your clan, return my child's life!" Yushang roared. Tears hung down his face. He thought of his charmingly naive daughter's appearance when she was young. When she grew up, she became a divine king and ranked among the top few in the Yang realm, but in the end she was cruelly killed by this clan. He also thought of his two sons who were also killed, leaving him alone and without anyone to rely on. Even his disciples were almost completely wiped out. He was like the most inauspicious person, and anyone related to him had to die. Boom! He stripped Yuan Ling of his Empyrean blood and burned his Tao source. "Ah!" Yuan Ling cried out in terror. He had been crippled, and his Empyrean Tao fruit had been completely destroyed. He had fallen directly to the divine king level. Boom! Yushang sent him flying with a kick, splitting his body into pieces. However, the armor was still there. It wasn't damaged and only caved in, preventing his flesh from completely separating. Everyone was stupefied. The insufferably arrogant Yuan family was now in such a miserable state, falling to such a state. As expected of the heavenly emperor's descendants, they couldn't be bullied and humiliated too deeply. Otherwise, who knew what kind of trouble might be stirred up? Serves them right. Back then, that celestial emperor had great merits in this world. How could they bully and humiliate his descendants like this? Are they tired of living? Aren't they afraid that the celestial emperor's troops will return to the Yang realm one day? He has already received retribution. Someone spoke. Even the prehistoric antique couldn't help but whisper like this. And suddenly, Yushang felt his special blood gradually calm down. The order symbols were no longer restless, and his body was no longer boiling hot. The special Empyrean domain he had obtained had become faint. He had returned to his normal state. He was a bit weak, and his body was no longer full of vigor. A strand of source qi appeared on the earth and began to fluctuate. I can't change your fate. The path of life and death is still the same. Do you still have any last wishes? The meaning of these words was clear. Normally, Yushang still had a few more months of life left. No one could change this reality. This strand of source qi actually had this kind of fluctuation. There was a certain spirituality that was talking to him. This astonished Yushang. I want to see my only descendant, Yao Yao. Even if she's dead, I still want to see traces of her. Otherwise, I won't be able to die in peace. Swoosh! The source qi swept him up and left this place, rushing towards the limits of the earth. Behind him, everyone's hair stood on end. What was that? Even a strand of source qi from the celestial emperor's weapon could reveal spirituality like this? Don't tell me that person is still alive. His weapon still has spirituality. A strand of source qi has reappeared in this world. It seems to be proving something. Many people couldn't help but cry out. Wait a moment, I want to bring Chowdo away. Yushang shouted from the limits of the earth. Not long ago, when your ancestor disappeared, the last corner of the scene had already appeared. Everything there has already been reflected, so there's no need to change anything. My spirituality has long since deteriorated, and I can't find your descendant Yao Yao. Now, I'm only bringing you to the place closest to her. Perhaps you'll be able to see her corpse. Meanwhile, on the battlefield behind them, Yuan Ling had already crawled up and reformed his body. His eyes were full of resentment as he stared in the direction where Yushang had disappeared. Then, he looked towards the secret realm. Yushang is old and muddle-headed. He didn't bring you away. Wrong, that strand of source qi has obscured its spirituality. It actually didn't bring you with the imprint. It seems something happened to the celestial emperor and he died. That's why the source qi's spirituality has also become rigid. Then, he rushed towards the secret realm. During this process, he suppressed his cultivation to the great sage realm in order to charge in. He shouted, even though I've been crippled, I'm still a divine king. My race's celestial venerable should be nearby. All the original trajectories haven't changed. We still have to obtain Yushang's imprint. Chu Feng looked at him disdainfully. Was he still afraid of a divine king now? Even though this person had the life experience of a celestial venerable and was incomparably experienced, he still didn't care. He was very confident. How dare a cripple like you talk nonsense to a great sage like me? Why don't you take a look at where you are? Call me Grandpa and I'll spare your life. Chu Feng spoke in a calm and collected manner. At this moment Yuan Ling was stunned at first. Then, he felt like his lungs were about to explode. His entire body wasn't in good shape. His blood was burning. He hadn't even made a move yet, but he already felt like his body was about to explode. Who said there wasn't an update? Here it comes. Additionally, I still have to write a chapter. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leader's Mobile Version. Chapter 1352. What did he just hear? A young saint dared to be arrogant and boast shamelessly, asking him to beg for mercy and call him grandpa? Yuan Ling was already so sullen that he wanted to die. Yu Shang had crippled his heavenly venerable cultivation, and now, even a saint dared to speak to him like this. This was really courting death. He was so angry that he was trembling and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. There was a trace of dark red at the corner of his mouth. Of course, this was mainly caused by Yu Shang's heavy injuries. Insect, how dare you speak to me like this? Today, I will refine your soul light 10,000 times. You won't die even if you want to, Yuan Ling said. His voice seemed to originate from the 9 netherworlds. It was incomparably bone-piercing cold, causing everyone on the battlefield to tremble in fear. Cut the crap. How do you want to die? Crawl over here, Chu Feng said, and directly walked towards the depths of the secret realm from the entrance. Yuan Ling really wanted to spit out blood. He felt that this brat didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and lacked reverence for people like him. Killing him directly was too lenient. However, in the end, he forcibly restrained himself. After all, this was a saint-level mystery realm, and theoretically speaking, he couldn't enter it. If he dared to release his true power, this small world would disintegrate and explode. Yuan Ling had originally stretched out his palm and wanted to break this youth's bones and snap his tendons. He wanted to keep his life and let him struggle at death's door. However, he forcefully restrained himself for fear of destroying this secret realm. This caused him to really want to spit out blood. He couldn't attack happily, and he had to hold it in. He was simply about to suffer internal injuries. You're a crippled heavenly venerable, no, a crippled divine king. You've already been crippled by Senior Yu Shang, yet you still dare to come here and show off your might. If you're not afraid of death, then come in. This young master will beat you to death. Chu Feng's challenge was truly unbridled. In the outside world, a group of people was dumbfounded. For a moment, Yuan Ling wanted to destroy this small world and attack regardless of the consequences. However, he didn't dare to do so. He had come here to obtain the mark of Yu Shang's family, and now that it was on Chowda, he had to capture this youth alive. This seat will personally capture you and place you in the 9 nether ghost lamp. You'll become the wick and burn your true soul for thousands of years. Yuan Ling really went in. I'm warning you. Yours truly is a great sage. I'm invincible in this secret ground. Chu Feng didn't directly attack. He had a lazy look on his face, and he looked down on Yuan Ling. Damn it. I'll beat you to death. Yuan Ling really couldn't stand it anymore. He had the urge to kill him immediately. No matter what, he was once an Empyrean. Even if his cultivation was crippled and he fell to the divine king realm, he still wasn't someone anyone could look down on. So what if he was a great sage? Were living beings who had comprehended the heavenly venerable and godly king realms really afraid? He didn't want to say anything more now. He felt that it was beneath his status to talk to this stupid great sage. However, at this moment, there was no need for him to be irritable. Because in the distance, someone shouted, "Ancestor Xian, we're here." At the end of the horizon, a group of people arrived. Some of them were clad in gold, and they had illustrious statuses. They were the old monsters of the Yuan clan, celestials, and not just one. Moreover, there were some youths following behind them, and they ranged from saints to god-kings. A streak of divine rainbow led straight to the front of the secret realm, bringing more than 10 youngsters here, entering the small world. Did you bring an ultimate weapon? Yuan Ling asked. The arrival of the Yuan clan's people allowed him to heave a sigh of relief. Otherwise, there would be other races celestials on this battlefield, and he had been crippled. If those people were to seize his mark, the situation would be very bad. In the outside world, some people's expressions changed. The so-called ultimate weapon was a weapon that had been nurtured with their own spirituality by the elders of the families of great cosmos-level powerhouses. This kind of thing was the most terrifying. This was because these weapons would be refined to the pinnacle in their respective domains. For example, a great cosmos realm being might do this in order to leave more resources for his family when he was alive. They would choose all kinds of rare materials to refine weapons of different realms, from the golden body realm to the saint realm, godly monarch realm, and even the almighty realm. There was no need to even think about such a weapon. It could be called an ultimate weapon. This was because it was an item that had been contaminated with the spirituality of a great cosmos-level powerhouse. It was the same as bestowing life upon these weapons. Even ordinary iron, after being nurtured by a great cosmos-level entity, could gain spirituality, let alone weapons refined from rare materials. Such a weapon could kill great saints, godly monarchs, and even grand heavenly venerables. It was just that tyrannical. However, it made sense after thinking about it. Otherwise, what would be the point of a weapon nurtured by a great cosmos-level entity? The things they wanted to leave behind naturally wouldn't be ordinary. They had to surpass the limit. It's really not easy. The ultimate weapons of the clan have all grown to the higher realms, leaving behind only 4 Sage Realm weapons. This is because the ancestors realized that they might need to suppress their own realms to use these low-level ultimate weapons when entering some special secret realms. They purposely didn't allow them to grow any further. One of the youths said with a smile. He was calm and unruffled. They had come to kill the great sage. These ultimate Sage Realm weapons could also be called Sage Slaughtering weapons. Sometimes they were also called Great Sage weapons because they corresponded to great sages. These dozen youths were the absolute elites of the Yuan clan. At the very least, no one in the Saint Realm was stronger than them. They were the fruit of the clan's painstaking nurturing. This kind of person wielding a sage slaughtering weapon was a true great sage. Now, 4 ultimate weapons were here, controlled by them together. This meant that 4 great sages had come prepared. In fact, some of them were already close to becoming great sages. As a member of the Yuan clan, how could they not have great sages? Of course, the lack of great sages in this generation wasn't because the clan was weak, but because they had long rushed to a higher realm and had long since had a godly monarch. It was just that they lay dormant and didn't come out under normal circumstances, so the people of the Yang realm didn't know. Great sage? It's not impossible. Chowda, do you want to pledge allegiance to us or choose death? A youth laughed, but his tone was very aggressive. In the outside world, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Many people's expressions changed after learning about the origins of the ultimate weapons from the elders. How could an ordinary clan possess such an item? Only a top-notch clan that had produced a great cosmos-level expert could leave behind such an item. The other clans didn't even need to think about it. Chu Feng glanced at them and said, "Come over and call me grandfather. Kneel and kowtow together with that trash heavenly venerable. You're courting death." The faces of the youths of the Yuan clan sank. How many years had it been? As long as their clan came into being, the world would be stirred up, and everyone in the world would fear them. Even the appearance of a young expert from their clan would cause many great clans in the Yang realm to be nervous. Now, someone was actually looking down on them. In particular, they had come with ultimate weapons to kill great sages, yet the other party wasn't afraid and was so confident. "Begin the slaughter of the great sages," the group of saints from the Yuan clan shouted. They were bursting with confidence. The 4 ultimate weapons shone at the same time, which meant that 4 great sages were showing their might. How could they be afraid of Chowda? Most importantly, there was an old ancestor who had suppressed his realm to come here. Although his cultivation had fallen to the divine king level, he had comprehended the rules of a heavenly venerable. Even if he sealed himself to the saint level, he still had the means to subdue a great sage. Go guard the exit. If there's a chance, we'll see if we can seize that imprint at the crucial moment. In the outside world, the emissaries' clansmen were discussing in secret. They were especially attentive to that imprint and were incomparably excited. As for those on the battlefield, everyone was holding their breaths because a great sage battle was actually going to break out in this small world. Moreover, it was equivalent to several great sages joining hands to suppress and kill Chowda. Come, 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 let me see what kind of power you scrap metal have. If you don't call me grandfather, then you can all die, shouted Chu Feng. He took the lead and entered the depths of the secret realm. Hong! The 4 weapons shone too fiercely. They were like 4 blazing suns rising, extremely resplendent and dazzling. One of them was a golden bell. It was rumbling and bell waves swept outwards. It was simply unstoppable and almost destroyed this small world. The secret realm could explode at any moment. This place was no longer stable. The second weapon was a purple sword core. It carried a demonic nature and had heaven's soaring symbols curling about it. Its sword intent was unmatched as it rampaged through the secret realm. There was nothing it couldn't cut through. Many mountain peaks were broken and many waterfalls flowed in reverse. This sword hacked towards Chu Feng. The third weapon was a lamp. It was extremely simple and unadorned. Only, the flame it emitted was a bit green and exceptionally terrifying. It had the aura of the netherworld curling about it. This lamp was extremely terrifying. Ghost flames swirled about. This level of energy could directly burn saints to death and seriously injure great sages. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was an extreme weapon that could slaughter great sages. The fourth weapon was a large black umbrella. It covered the sky and covered the earth. It wanted to envelop everything. If they clashed for a long time, it could injure great sages and even slaughter them in the end. These weapons were nurtured by the spirituality of great cosmos-level entities. They displayed their terrifying aspects and were truly world-shaking. In theory, they could show disdain to all enemies in their domain. The 4 weapons were activated and completely revived. They released terrifying fluctuations that shook the entire secret realm. All types of order symbols interweaved. Originally, it was extremely difficult for saints to produce such a scene in the Yang realm. It was also difficult for so many divine order chains to form. But now, the 4 weapons were no longer within this restriction. The slaughter of the great sage has begun. However, we will leave him alive and wait for him to offer up his imprint. In the outside world, an elder from the Yuan family spoke with a satisfied smile. He could feel the aura that was being released after the extreme weapons were revived. My clan's children should all enter. Prepare to search for opportunities in that secret realm and drag Chowda out, said another elder. The remaining youths of the Yuan family directly entered. Their numbers weren't few. This made the other races and evolvers on the battlefield silent. The Yuan family was too powerful. Who dared to stop them? Were they clearly going to plunder all the opportunities? Some people sighed inwardly. The Celestial Emperor's descendant had activated his ancestor's life imprint. Unfortunately, it was only a flash in the pan and couldn't truly suppress the Yuan family. Apart from this, people also began to have some suspicions. Could it be that something had really happened to the Celestial Emperor back then? The strand of source chi he left behind was lacking in spirituality. Was it proof of everything? The large group of youths from the Yuan family all entered the secret realm. It was also at this time that many people heard the world-shaking sound of collision. Within the small secret realm, beams of light overflowed. Chowda forcefully clashed with the 4 extreme weapons and began a great confrontation. Boom! Within the secret realm, light and flames surged. Chu Feng's palm shone and a divine spear appeared. It was formed from energy and was thrown into the air. With a clang, it collided with the golden bell. Clang! Divine light blossomed between his brows as he activated the wonderful 7 treasures technique. Three types of energy directly flew out and collided with the purple sword core and the black heavenly demonic umbrella. At the same time, he raised his fist and directly smashed towards the ancient lamp with faint ghostly flames. A great battle erupted. The so-called slaughter of the great sage was in progress. Not even 4 extreme weapons can take down a great sage. In the outside world, the people from the Yuan family were dissatisfied. However, within the secret realm, the youths from the Yuan family were all horrified. Was this Chao De going against the heavens? He was fighting against 4 extreme weapons by himself. This was equivalent to fighting 4 great sages at the same time, yet he could actually block them. The so-called slaughter of the great sage was too difficult. Sparks flew in all directions during the intense collision. He actually dared to attack the extreme weapons with his bare hands. The group of youths who had just entered the secret realm were dumbfounded. What kind of situation was this? They're just inanimate objects. Do you really think they're 4 living great sages? What qualifications do they have to fight against me? All of you die! Shouted Chu Feng. He actually caught the purple sword core with his bare hand. His hands turned into millstones and forcefully crushed it. In the end, a cracking sound was heard as cracks appeared on the sword core. How is this possible? At this time, even Yuan Ling, who was in the secret realm, was dumbfounded. Chao De had damaged the extreme weapons. This was definitely not a great sage in the ordinary sense. What kind of damned monster was this? It's really hard. As expected of a weapon nurtured by a great cosmos-level entity. It contains an indescribable spiritual energy. Even ordinary iron would turn into a spirit. Chu Feng sighed in admiration. However, as he spoke, a cracking sound rang out. In the end, he actually broke the purple sword core. A weapon known to be able to kill a great sage had been destroyed just like that. He looked at his hand. There was a red mark left behind and he almost bled. I can't be bothered to tangle with you anymore. Not only do you have weapons, but so do I. Come, break for me! Shouted Chu Feng as he tossed out the diamond chakram with a shake of his hand. Boom! Originally, the ancient lamp with faint ghostly flames was suppressing Chu Feng and burning him to ashes. But now, the diamond chakram had appeared and directly shattered the lamp. This was the result of him not activating the inner runes of the diamond chakram. He had only restricted it to the limits of the secret realm. But what was this diamond chakram? It was the prototype of a peerless weapon. How could it resist? Even a so-called extreme weapon couldn't. Clang! Next, as the diamond chakram flew out, the golden bell in the sky also exploded into pieces. At almost the same time, the black umbrella also disintegrated and was swallowed by the rotating diamond chakram. It broke into pieces and fell to the ground. A few youths cried out. Die! Chu Feng shouted as he activated the diamond chakram. Its inner ring transformed into a black hole and began to devour frantically. Those youths who had activated the 4 ultimate weapons screamed miserably as they were sucked into the black hole. They disintegrated and turned into a bloody mist before even entering the black hole. As for the large group of Yuan clan youths who had followed orders to come in and plunder the fortune, they also encountered a calamity. Chu Feng activated the diamond chakram, causing it to expand and sweep away everything. No one could escape, and they were all struck by the diamond chakram, leaving behind a bloody mist. Yuan Ling saw all of this with his own eyes. He roared and swooped down, about to explode. He wasn't a saint, but a former Empyrean. Chu Feng was afraid that he would suddenly erupt with power close to that of an Empyrean and destroy the small world, so he took out the stone jar to meet this person. With a whoosh, when the two finally approached each other, Chu Feng put himself and Yuan Ling into the stone jar and pulled the enemy into the mysterious space. Yuan Ling was astonished. What kind of jar was this? He felt that it was strange and bewitching. He actually couldn't see through this jar. Now, the inside of the stone jar was 10 meters tall. The space was large enough to accommodate 2 people fighting in close combat. At this time, Chu Feng had nothing to hide. He closed the jar and displayed the great divine king's power. He slapped over and said, "Call me Grandpa." Yuan Ling roared in anger because he had actually been hit and couldn't dodge. Only now did he realize that he didn't need to suppress his realm anymore. He didn't need to worry about the secret realm exploding because the other party was a divine king. How was this possible? What was going on? He was shocked and puzzled. At the same time, he suffered a slap. The great divine king's attack almost snapped his head off from his neck. His head turned half a circle and his face was facing backward. "You!" He was furious. He was once an Empyrean, yet his head was almost sent flying by someone here? "Are you going to call me or not?" Chu Feng sneered and blasted over again. As for the outside world, it was as if a hive had exploded. After all, the Yuan clan's youths were all very strong and could be considered a group of terrifying characters. However, they had all been swept away in an instant. One hand covering the sky, and they were all wiped out. They couldn't kill a great saint, and their ultimate weapons were all destroyed instead. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.